Chapter 41:31. The first is more. At that moment he was subjected to an extremely powerful deterrent force that made him tremble all over his body, and he could not help but kneel and worship. That is a kind of congenital suppression from a lower life level. Life stun, this talent is supernatural, and it can stun all people whose life level is lower than themselves for a short time. In other words, as long as the level of life is lower than that of sword warriors, no matter what the realm is, it will be suppressed, but the degree of suppression is different. That is high-level life, looking down on low-level life. At that moment, his horror caused his consciousness to fall into a stagnant state, and the kingdom of God immediately collapsed, and Jian Wushuang took the opportunity to defeat his body. But don't forget that the king of Jiulong himself is also the perfect life. His talents should be the deterrent suppression at the level of life. In the way of being deterred, people's conscious actions fell into a temporary stasis, but I am also a perfect life like him. Is it because his strength is stronger than mine? The king of Jiujiasum wondered. He has indeed seen Jian Wushuang's talented nature, which is the deterrent suppression of the life level. But he did not understand why Jian Wushuang's talented supernatural powers suppressed him. He didn't know that the perfect level of life was also true, but Jian Wushuang's level of life was definitely higher than that of King Jiujia. After all, Jian Wushuang's divine strength is 13,500 times, and it's not his limit. He just shows 8,000 times the divine strength. The normal perfect life, even if the innate advantage is developed to the extreme, it is only equivalent to 10,000 times the strength of the ordinary practitioners. Even the Supreme Master of Blood, it is certain that Jian Wushuang's life level is by no means as simple as perfect life. In the same state that the two remained in the same state, Jian Wushuang's talents and magical powers were shocked, and Jiu Jiawang was also unable to resist and was extremely intimidated. This is the key to Jian Wushuang's victory. Jian Wushuang. King Jiujia looked up at Jian Wushuang, who also returned to his consciousness, but his eyes were extremely complicated. The king of 9 calamities, it has been accepted. Jian Wushuang smiled and arched his hands at the king of 9 calamities. Upon seeing this, King Jiujia snorted coldly and said, "Jian Wushuang, you are lucky this time." "You said I was lucky, let alone luck." Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and was too lazy to argue with him. After a moment of pause, Jian Wushuang's words turned and said, "The king of 9 calamities, the trial is now over, and the color head that should have been delivered before should be delivered? Well, this seat will still be bad for you?" Jiu Jiawang heard the words. There was a tinge of annoyance on his face, and he didn't drag. His right hand was turned over, and 2 jealous inferior principles appeared on the palm. It was the 2 rules of God fruit that he had previously used to make colorful heads. "Jiang Wushuang, these are the 2 gods that promise you the best, and as for the 200,000 cosmic source stones, I will send someone to your residence later. Rest assured, although I lost in Jiujia, but not a person who can't afford to lose." After speaking, with a wave of the sleeves of the king of 9 calamities, these 2 sublime rules of God fruit, they shot towards the sword Wushuang. "Thank you very much." Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and brought the 2 sublime rules to the fruit of God. "One slave, let's go." The king of 9 robbers was defeated at this moment, and he didn't think much about it. After saying a word to the old man in black in the distance, he left with a gloomy face. The slave in black also quickly followed. A few moments later, the figures of King Jiujia and the old man in black had disappeared in front of everyone. And in that unique void, Gafu Supreme glanced at Jian Wushuang deeply and also flickered, leaving the blue temple. Gafu Supreme walked slowly. Bloodwave Supreme smiled brightly. The corners of his mouth were full of joy. At the beginning, as the only person who knew the sword and the bottom of the sword, Bloodwave Supreme had great confidence in the battle of the sword and the sword. However, with the outbreak of a mindfulness of the kingdom of the 9 kings, his confidence was broken. Worried about Jian Wushuang. It didn't take long for him to worry. Jian Wushuang even reversed the situation instantly, and his talents came out, winning this victory directly. Even though he was accustomed to strong winds and waves, his mood couldn't help a little ups and downs. Big Axe, we have been watching for so long, and it's time to meet the little guy. Bloodwave Supreme smiled at the great axe next to him. That's right. Although the Supreme Axe wanted to hold his expression, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but evoke a rising arc. With a flash of their figures, they appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Extreme Bloodwave, Extreme Axe. Jian Wushuang saw the arrival of Extreme Axe and Extreme Bloodwave, and hurriedly bowed respectfully. For these two supremes, Jian Wushuang is still very respectful. You're welcome. Bloodwave Supreme waved his hand, and his gaze was a glance at the people in the Palace of Life, who were watching the battle in the void, and said, "There are so many people talking here, let's talk in another place." Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded his head, and then the three of them flickered and left the trial ground. And those who watched the battle at the Life Shrine looked at the disappearing sword Wushuang and could not return to God for a long time. Slowly, a little respect was added to their eyes. After 300,000 years of training, you can defeat the 9 jealous kings who are invincible universes among the masters. This sword is uniquely talented. I am afraid that the entire vast universe will never find a second person. I don't know if I can find the second one in the vast universe, but in the palace of my life and domination, no one can compare with him. It is foreseeable that as long as this sword Wushuang does not fall off in the middle, it is entirely possible that it will become another pillar of the shrine of my life. His potential is truly limitless. These powerful men who watch the battle are discussing one after another, and their hearts are hung with sincere smiles. Jian Wushuang, who is in the palace of their life, the stronger the sword Wushuang is, then their life shrine is naturally stronger. The two complement each other and depend on each other. Let's go too. Everyone left, and this battle was settled with the sword's victory. And the news that the King of 9 Calamities lost to Jian Wushuang in the trial ground, and then spread it completely in the Temple of Life. In the Temple of Life, there is a plaque with the word Bloodwave in it. There are several stone tables, and a pot of tea is burning on the table. The tea is not cooked yet, and it has a refreshing spiritual fragrance. Have been scattered. Well, 2 gods of sublime rules, 200,000 source rocks of the universe, don't look at Jujie on the trial ground, pretending to be nothing. In fact, some of him hurts. Bloodwave Supreme shook his head, he said with a chuckle. Chapter 4132. Second more. Giant Axe Supreme and Jian Wushuang stood beside Bloodwave Supreme, and they couldn't help smiling at the words. The three came here after leaving the Blue Stone Hall. Being able to defeat the 9 Calamity Kings who have been able to perform a miracle of God in the trial ground, you are really amazing, but you must not be complacent because of a trial victory. You lose, but it's because Xiao was suppressed to the same realm as you on the trial ground. If it is a real competition, you are far away from him. Suddenly, the giant axe looked at Jian Wushuang suddenly, exhorted. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. He naturally knew that if he killed himself in reality, the King of 9 Calamities would be the ultimate master. With his own divine strength, he would be able to match the supreme power, and the combat power would be absolutely supreme. Level, and even if he exerts all his strengths, he is not enough in front of the supreme. The great axe is afraid of being proud and complacent when he wins a victory, which reminds him a few words. Just understand. The giant axe said no more, seeing a smile. After a while, the lingsha was cooked, and the rich tea aroma spread completely. The Supreme Master Xie Bo brewed a cup of tea for Jian Wushuang and asked, Wang Wushuang, what are you planning next? Jian Wushuang groaned for a moment and replied, whether it is my understanding of Kendo or my understanding of the laws of the universe, it is good in the level of domination, but my own realm is really too low, so I want to try my best. May break through the 4th level to dominate first. Jian Wushuang is very clear that no matter what his means are, his own realm is fundamental. And he is now only the 3rd level domination. Although the combat power is comparable to the ultimate domination, and even stronger than the general ultimate domination, this level is still nothing in the vast universe. Improving realm cultivation as soon as possible is indeed the top priority of Jian Wushuang. The breakthrough of the dominance level is based on the fusion rule, and I have understood the seventh rule very early. What is missing is the fusion of the seventh rule. Although I have some ideas about the fusion of the seventh rule, if it continues to merge gradually, it will be able to merge, but progress will be too slow, and it will take hundreds of thousands of years to say less. Too slow. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Hundreds of thousands of years, perhaps for most of the masters, just a snap. But for Jian Wushuang, who has only practiced for more than 300,000 years, hundreds of thousands of years are indeed too long. Masters' whereabouts are unknown. The group of mysterious supremes I encountered in Jui Starfield before, I'm afraid they all went to Master. And if I want to figure out all this, to find the Master's deity, at least I must have the supreme combat power, because only then can I not be afraid of the mysterious supremes. Not much time left for me. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered. Before he was hunted down by one of the mysterious supremes, a supreme called Bite 9, he already had some speculation. There is only one reason why the Thunder God Palace would be flattened, and he would kill the Break 9 Supreme himself. Even the 9 stars were almost erased by them. That is his master, Xin-I. Jian Wushuang thought about this and frowned lightly. The Bloodwave Supreme and Giant Axe Supreme also saw the distress on Jian Wushuang's face. Jian Wushuang, are you distressed to merge the seventh rule? Bloodwave Supreme looked over. Jian Wushuang nodded. The rules are merged, and the more difficult it is, the more difficult I am. I have obtained some special opportunities before. I already have a general idea about the fusion of the seventh rule. Inevitable, but it may take longer. This is not a problem. Supreme Xie Bo smiled and said, in the Palace of Life, there are also many special places as well as some excellent cultivation places, such as the battle with King Jiolong before. The testing ground is where many practitioners in my life shrine use the old simulations to fight. In terms of rule fusion, naturally, my life shrine also has several cultivation places that are helpful for rule fusion. However, now that you have a clear idea, what is missing is only the time course. It will be easier. I can introduce you to a place just in the third mountain. There is a river of Wudao. You are inside integrating the seventh rule. The speed is definitely several times or even dozens of times elsewhere. You can go there and see. In addition, that Wudaohe is not only a rule, it is also very helpful in the realization of the laws of the universe. Didn't you get 2 gods from God of the 9th Calamity? When you get to Dao Hanoi, you can try to eat one, and maybe you will gain something in the laws of the universe. God River? Jian Wushuang looked. Thank you for telling the seniors. Jian Wushuang gave thanks to Bloodwave Supreme, and even left the temple eagerly and headed for the third mountain. Looking at the back that Jian Wushuang swept away at the speed, Bloodwave Supreme was showing a playful smile. Bloodbow, you mentioned Wudao to this little guy, but you didn't mention the river spirit of Wudao Hanoi. Why is this? The giant axe looked at it strangely. They'll just tell Wudaohe. As for that river spirit, it's not a big trouble. He should deal with it by himself. Bloodwave Supreme frowned. The 2 supreme faces looked at each other, with a smile on their corners. On the other side, after learning about the existence of Daohe from the mouth of Bloodwave Supreme, Jian Wushuang first went back to his residence to say hello to Leng Rushuang, and immediately went to the third mountain. In the third mountain range, Jian Wushuang casually asked someone and knew where the Dao River was. Before approaching the Wudao River, Jian Wushuang heard a rushing stream of water. When he approached it, a rolling river with a width of 1,000 meters appeared in front of him. The river was dark, and the unparalleled sword unconsciously looked at it and couldn't help but stunned. It has a strong and regular atmosphere. Not only that, but also the atmosphere of the laws of the universe, and it is extremely rich. He can feel that the regular breath in this river and the breath of the laws of the universe are extremely intense. It can be said that it is thousands of times outside. It must be much faster than the outside world. As for the integration of the seventh rule, the time required can naturally be greatly reduced. Chapter 41-33. 3 more arrive today. Looking at the Wudao River, which is so rich in the rules of heaven and earth and the law of the universe, Jian Wushuang nodded with satisfaction. Seeing no one around, he didn't think too much, and stepped into the river in one step. After a few breaths, Jian Wushuang went to the deepest part of the middle of the river. At the next moment, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and let his body sink gradually. Gollum. There was a blister of water on the river surface, and only a moment later, Jian Wushuang disappeared on the river surface and sank to the bottom of the river. At the bottom of the river, the sword sat cross-legged and turned over and took out the inferior Rule God fruit obtained from the King of Nine Robbers, but he just took out the Rule God fruit. His brow was wrinkled, it seemed to be sensing something, his eyes could not help choked up. Later, as if nothing had happened, Jian Wushuang set aside the 2 sublime rules of God fruit and closed his eyes slowly. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Jian Wushuang seems to be in deep cultivation. I do not know when, in the dark right behind Jian Wushuang, a little old man who is only 5 inches tall, slightly humpbacked, with a small mustache, walked out towards Jian Wushuang slowly. The little old man tiptoed and gave birth to his eyes. He came to the back of Jian Wushuang, carefully looked at Jian Wushuang, and saw that Jian Wushuang really fell into deep cultivation, and then he took a long breath and raised his back. Shaky and swaying towards the sword, Wushuang walked over. But just as he reached out his hand and just grabbed the 2 inferior laws next to Jian Wushuang, the vision over his sky suddenly turned black. "Catch you!" A cold voice came. The next moment, seeing Jian Wushuang's eyes open, the cold mang in his eyes flickered, and he lifted up the little old man. Woo-hoo-wow! The little old man was held in his hand by Jian Wushuang, and suddenly whimpered. To shut up. Jian Wu's eyes were cold, and his hand was lightly forced. The old man stopped barking suddenly. A pair of small eyes stared angrily at Jian Wushuang, gritted his teeth and said, "Boy, do you know who I am?" Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes when he heard the words, and there was a look of shock in his face. This little old man is not so tall, probably the first master level, but he has a strange power on his body. Don't look at him just pinching it gently, but depending on his current strength, even the ordinary second-level dominator will be directly pinched by him, and this little old man has nothing at all, which is really weird. I don't know. Jian Wushuang depressed his thoughts and replied faintly. What? Your elder didn't tell you who I was? The little old man made a mistake on his face, then glanced at Jian Wushuangdo. I tell you, I am this river of Wudao River Lord. Lord He Ling is also. He Ling. Jian Wushuang glanced suspiciously at the little old man. He hadn't heard from the Supreme Master of Blood that there was any river spirit in the Dao River. Wouldn't it be a liar? Boy, you have such a daring courage to dare to do this to me. Do you know that you have done a great disaster, and if you are acquaintances, you will consciously let me go, by the way? Quite, pointing to the 2 sublime rules next to Jian Wushuang, and the eyes glowed. Give me these 2 sublime rules to God, and I will spare you rudeness, otherwise, and take it at your own risk. Jian Wushuang heard the words, and couldn't help laughing, squinting his eyes and saying, Are you into a big disaster? Still conceited? I'd like to see, how did you make me conceited? After that, Jian Wu's eyes were cold, and he pointed like a sword and fired a sword on, fiercely chopping towards this river spirit. Rumble. This river of enlightenment has been split directly. Damn. Seeing this, the river screamed, and quickly tried to avoid it. Huh? How advanced is Jian Wushuang's kendo cultivation for now, and where is the river spirit that the first level dominates in this area, which can be avoided? Before the river spirit evaded to the side, this sword on split the river spirit directly into 2 pieces. But I saw that the river spirit was split into 2 places, the river water was twisted for a while, and the countless rules and the laws of the universe were permeated. After only a few breaths, the river spirit actually continued to reorganize and resurrected again. In addition, the law of the universe and rules of this Tao river are full of breath. Boy, do you even move towards me? He Ling's eyes widened and he looked at Jian Wushuang unbelievably. Since the birth of this Wudao River, it is no longer known how many years have passed, and since Wudao he was moved by the mysterious master of the Life Shrine to move to the Life Shrine, the special life of the Life Shrine, which is not respectful to him. Even the Supreme Strong is quite humble to him, And even if he wants to enter this river of Wudao to understand the rules of fusion, he must prepare him a gift. As a result, this guy broke his sword? Jian Wushuang did not pay attention to He Ling's angry screaming, but touched his chin, revealing a thoughtful look in his eyes. He Ling looked at Jian Wushuang's contemplative look, and he smiled suddenly. A hint of slyness flashed in his eyes. Boy, is there no way to take me? Obediently hand over the 2 sublime rules God fruit. Suddenly, Jian Mang suddenly split at him. You guy. He Ling had no time to make an exclamation, but was extremely miserable and was smashed by the Swordsman, falling apart. After Jian Wushuang split the sword, his eyes were full of interest and he looked at the smashed river spirit. There was a guess in his mind. Gollum. Sure enough, it didn't take long for He Ling to regroup again, and he jumped angrily. Asshole! How can you shoot me one after another? I am the Lord He Ling. Jian Wu's eyes looked at the river spirit that was far away from him, cursing the grinning He Ling, and a weird smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Sure enough, www.novel. With the collapse and reorganization of He Ling's body, the rule breath of this Wudao river is stronger than before. If he is not mistaken, this river spirit is transformed by the rules of the will of Wudao, which belongs to an immortal existence. As the river spirit was killed and reorganized by him, the rules of will were consumed, and he was fed back. This enlightenment is on the river. Therefore, every time the river spirit dies, the rule of breath in this river of enlightenment is strong. Old man, it looks like you really are the river spirit of Wudao. Jian Wushuang smiled strangely. He Ling looked at the smile on Jian Wushuang's face. Somehow, he shivered inexplicably. What do you want to do when you look at me like this? He Ling's neck flinched back and his throat rolled. Chapter 41-34. The first is more. I just killed you twice. Every time you die, the rules of heaven and earth and the laws of the universe must be stronger. That is to say, if I can kill you a few more times, I will get the benefits here in Wudao. Isn't it bigger? Jian Wushuang stared at He Ling with good intentions. He Ling stared, but Jian Wushuang had already shot. Come here, Zhentian Monument. Jian Wushuang laughed loudly. A towering Zhentian monument instantly landed, pressing He Ling under the monument. With a scream of the river spirit, Jian Wushuang's retreat for thousands of years began. Spring to autumn, thousands of years. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 years passed. For 3,000 years, in this vast universe, every day, powerful people fall, and new stars are born. The cycle of ancient times is endless. For the universe, the time of 3,000 years is just a snap, and there is peace in the palace of life. The third mountain. A calm, dark river was flowing slowly. Suddenly the river surface began to boil. Gollum. The water bubbles were bursting and bursting, and within just a few breaths, the river surface was shaking like a boiling water. Next moment, call out. Along with a howl, a figure in black burst out of the river instantly. Jian Wushuang stepped down and stood on the bank of the Dao River. His eyes flickered in his eyes, and the avenue of the whole body surrounded him, like a fucking bathed in a regular ocean. In the 3,000 years, he finally merged the 7th rule in Han Dao Hanoi. In the realm, he also successfully controlled the level from the 3rd level and broke through to the level of the 4th level. Is this the power dominated by the 4th series? Jian Wushuang spread his palms, carefully feeling the fullness of the power in his body, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He can feel that after breaking through the 4th level, his power is at least dozens of times stronger than before. You know, his strength is 135,000 times that of an ordinary practitioner. It is equivalent to the ordinary 4th grade to dominate 13,500 times the strength of the divine power, which is already stronger than many ultimate dominators in divine power. And this is not his biggest gain. The most important thing is that his understanding of the laws of the universe has risen to a higher level than 3,000 years ago. Of course, the greater appreciation of the laws of the universe, in addition to the swallowing of the 2 sublime rules of God's fruit lost to the King of 9 calamities, the bigger reason is because of this river of realization. No, or because of that river spirit. He Ling, I can break through the 4th level master in just 3,000 years, and I have to take care of you. Jian Wushuang looked at the center of Wudao and smiled slightly. There, He Ling was as dead as a heart, lying weakly on the river. He tilted his head and flung Jian Wushuang, opened his mouth to say something, but in the end he shook his head weakly. 3,999 swords. In these 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang cut his 3,889 swords, and he remembered every sword clearly. What is that concept? He died a total of 3,989 times. Is this something one can do? What does this treat his noble Lord Heling? No one can understand his feelings. Under the suppression of the god demon Tianbei, he couldn't escape, he couldn't run, he just watched. Every time Jian Wushuang's understanding of the laws of the universe, when he reached the bottleneck, he smiled and stretched out his hand, and the sword of fell on him. As the incarnation of Wudao River and the source of the law, every time he dies, the universe's laws and rules breath in this Wudao River, one point is strong. As a result, a large number of cosmic laws and rules collapsed and nurtured in this river of enlightenment, and then speeded up the speed of Jian Wushuang's integration of the rules and the perception of the cosmic laws. He Ling, you have been wronged in these 3,000 years, but you can rest assured that in the future, I have no swords, and there will be good returns. Jian Wushuang carefully arched his hand towards the river spirit. In any case, he was quite grateful for the river spirit. After all, without the river spirit, he would never break through the 4th level in the 3,000 years, and he would have no control over the universe. The comprehension of the law has risen a lot. Let's go, I don't want to see you again. He Ling waved his hands weakly, and now he has nothing to ask for, just hope this who kills 1,000 swords and leaves here early. Jian Wushuang smiled and didn't say much anymore. He stepped hard, and the whole man rose into the sky and left the 3rd mountain. The 6th mountain, in the manor where Jian Wushuang lives. A graceful figure was standing by the railing, holding a bag of fish food in his hand, and dropping it, which caused thousands of koi in the lake to turn over, and the scene was quite spectacular. Frost. At that moment, she gently wrapped her arms around the graceful figure's waist, and then a soft voice sounded behind her ears. Lung Rushuang didn't panic, but smiled. Fu Jun, you're out of customs so soon? Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. Shuanger, I haven't seen you for 3,000 years. I think the breath on your body is about to break through the 4th level to dominate the realm, right? Well, it's coming soon. Lung Rushuang nodded. She had broken through earlier than Jian Wushuang to reach the 3rd level, and because she had absorbed the heart of the astral world, her potential was equally huge. Up to now, the 7th rule has almost merged, and the breakthrough reaches the 4th level, which is also within easy reach. It is a pity that cold as frost is not a special life in the end. She cannot obtain many resources in the Palace of Life. Otherwise, she can go to Wudao River and practice for thousands of years like Jian Wushuang, and it is estimated that she can break through. After returning from Wudaohe, Jian Wushuang remained in his manor house, and was always with his wife. Until 3 years later. Jian Wushuang, come to me quickly. The blood of supreme blood suddenly sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang's eyebrows lifted. Blood supreme is one of the chief supremes of Life Shrine. If there is nothing, he will not be summoned easily. Now he not only summoned to him personally, but also used the word, speed to come, just in case something urgent happened. Shuang, Blood Wave Supreme is looking for me. You are here for a while. Jian Wushuang said hello to Lung Rushuang and did not dare to delay, and hurried to Blood Wave Supreme. Under the guidance of Supreme Blood Wave, Jian Wushuang soon came to a towering temple. Upon entering the temple, Jian Wushuang's pupils could not help shrinking. The atmosphere is so dignified. I saw an old man sitting on the main seat in the main hall, exuding a decaying old man, the supreme of the blood waves and the great axe sitting on the vice of the old man. His expressions were extremely serious. Under the 3 of them, more than 20 special lives at the ultimate dominating level are sitting in critical condition, and their looks are not very good-looking. Chapter 41-35. 2 more arrived today. Inside the temple. Jiang Wushuang, it'll be short of you. Bloodwave Supreme glanced at Jian Wushuang, his eyes suddenly flashed, and he could naturally see that Jian Wushuang had now reached the 4th level to dominate the realm. This little guy, the breakthrough speed is really fast. Looking back, Bloodwave Supreme knew that now is not the time to recount the old, so he pressed down what he wanted to say and introduced the identity of the old man sitting in the main position. I introduce to you, this one next to me is Supreme Governance. Extreme Gav, Supreme Blood, Supreme Giant Axe. Jian Wushuang immediately bowed to salute, with awe in his eyes. Inside these 3 Supremes, it is natural that there is no need to say more. As for this Gava Supreme, during his time in the Palace of Life, I have heard people say that he is the oldest and strongest top Supreme among the 5 Chief Supremes. Sit down. Bloodwave Supreme waved his hand, and then glanced at the special lives of all the dominating levels in the House of Justice. He said lightly, there are a lot of masters in the final level of the Palace of my life, but I am able to get away now, and those with the ultimate dominance and above are almost here. Although the supreme words were bland, everyone in the room could hear their hearts tightly. Jian Wushuang's heart moved even more. Obviously, they were summoned by the top ultimate masters this time. The more than 20 people present were the ultimate masters at the top level, but he was only the 4th level. It stands to reason that he shouldn't have appeared at this party, but the Supreme Master of Blood, he called him intentionally. Now that everyone is here, let's just talk directly. Gafu Supreme's eyes became murky. Everyone in the ancient ruins found in the Hengyang starfield 10,000 years ago should have heard about 1 or 2. Then hundreds of years before the Chaos Era, an invincible Supreme fell. There are many invincible Supremes left behind, fortunate to create. And our life shrine was also sent to a team looking for opportunities, but not long ago, the team in my life shrine was in trouble. Is something wrong? As soon as the voice of Supreme Lord Gaff fell, many of the ultimate masters in the Hall of Argument were shocked, and the scene immediately became agitated. Not to say that ancient ruins can only be accessed by practitioners below the Supreme Realm, and there is no danger in it? Yeah, our shrine sent a team to the ruins to look for opportunities, but the leader of the Chasing the Wind, the Chasing the King in the ultimate level is almost invincible, no matter what. In the case of the Supreme, you should not. What's going to happen? Many of the ultimate masters present frowned. About the ancient ruins, they all know 1 or 2. It is said that it was the place where hundreds of prehistoric chaos predecessors, the invincible Supremes of the universe, who had been so famous in the universe, fell. Most of Taro's reputation has been heard. At that time, the universe was notorious at the time, but it was the invincible strongest in the entire universe. The Taro kingdom that he opened up with his own hands was the hegemon of the universe. In terms of strength, the Taro kingdom is much stronger than many kingdoms in the universe today. But I don't know why. The Taro Supreme who was gaining momentum at that time has caused all the heavenly figures. Not only has he fallen down, but even the Taro kingdom that he opened up has been wiped out. What an invincible Supreme, plus a kingdom of God. Even though hundreds of times of chaos have passed, there have been people who have never given up, looking for the place where Taro's body has fallen in the universe. If you think about it, you can think of Taro's invincible and supreme identity. His family is absolutely amazing. In addition, he is also the Lord of a kingdom of God. The entire accumulation of the kingdom of Terra's kingdom of God was held by Terra Supreme. No one knows that when the kingdom of Tai Luo was wiped out, was the history of Tai Luo God kingdom buried with Tai Luo Supreme? It can be said that this is an opportunity enough to make the Supreme jealous. Therefore, thousands of years ago, when the place where Tai Luo died appeared in the universe, countless people were crazy, and the whole universe was a sensation. Many of the Supreme strong, even the invincible Supreme, were shocked and shot in rush to the Taro ruins. However, to their disappointment, this Taro relics was planted with an extremely powerful prohibition. Only practitioners below the level of the Supreme Realm were allowed to enter. Anyone who entered the Supreme Realm would suffer huge rebound. In the face of this ban, even the invincible Supreme is helpless. If it is forcibly shot, This ancient ruin will only be destroyed automatically. Therefore, the top forces in all sides of the universe had to send their majesties' peak powers at the level of to enter the ruins to compete for the opportunity left by Tai Luo Supreme. The Palace of Life, as a top force in the universe, naturally will not fall, so it sent a team composed entirely of the ultimate dominator. The leader is the almost invincible King of the Wind in the ultimate domination. The King of the Wind itself is a creature of life. He has developed nearly 80% of his innate advantages. His strength is thousands of times that of ordinary practitioners, and he has a certain understanding of the laws of the universe. Under the premise that he cannot be exalted, no one is reasonable. What he can do is right. Not long ago, the palace received a message of help from the King of the Wind, but before the palace responded, the news of the King of the Wind was interrupted, and then the palace tried to contact the other masters of that team. But there was no reply from one person, so it seems that the team is afraid that it is already more fierce and less powerful, and the King of the Wind may also have fallen. Gafu Supreme said. As soon as this remark was made, there was an uproar in the hall of the council. The ultimate dominating squad annihilated? Even the King of the Wind has fallen? Grunts in the temple, there are heavy gasping sounds. At the beginning, these ultimate masters were only in the ruins, and they were a piece of fat cake that they could plunder, but now they can't help but feel half-cooled. The King of the Wind is dead in it, and in the ultimate dominion present, few ask themselves to beat the King of the Wind. Moreover, at the level of ultimate domination, victory is victory, killing is another matter. Supreme Gap took a good look at the expressions of everyone in the Hall of Dedication, and the expression on his face did not change. He said lightly, "The matter of the Tail Ruins is of great importance, and the treasures and opportunities in it are enough for any party in the universe. The forces attach great importance to it, and our Shrine of Life can never give up. Therefore, the old man intends to send a dominating team from the shrine to enter it, and by the way, figure out what is going on with them." Chapter 4136. The first is more. Enter the ruins? This. After the words of Gaver Supreme fell, the ultimate dominator in the presence frowned, and there was a hint of hesitation on his face. If it was before today, Supreme Gav asked if they wanted to enter the ruins to look for opportunities and good fortune. Naturally, they were 10,000 willing, but in the news just conveyed by Supreme GV, even the King of the Wind died. It makes people think deeply. You know, what is the strength of the King of the Wind? The leader in the ultimate level has an almost invincible existence, and even he died in the ruins. The ultimate dominator present asked himself, if he encounters the same crisis, his chances of survival can be worse than the King of the Wind. To be low. Immediately, there were several weaker ultimate masters, who quietly bowed their heads, fearing that they would be seen by the Supreme Lord and sent into the ruins. Extreme blood wave. The next thing is to choose the person who will enter the ruins of Tai Luo, and I will leave it to you. The old man has another thing, and then he will take a step. He left the temple. Yes. Bloodwave Supreme nodded his head, then glanced at the ultimate masters in the house of discussion, shaking his head secretly. What are these people's minds? He naturally knows, but from the beginning he did not intend to choose those weak masters. Those who entered the ruins of Tai Luo had someone in his mind. Zitong is dominating. Chiba Lord. Qing Fengho. Bloodwave Supreme ordered 5 names in a row before stopping. These 5 people are the most powerful among the top ultimate dominators. Like the master of Zitong and the god of Chiba, they all realize a trace of the law of the universe. Among the ultimate masters, they are also the pinnacles. Even compared with the King of the Wind, it is not much worse. The other 3 are also very capable. 5 of you, are you willing to go to the ruins of Tai Luo to look for opportunities and investigate the death of the King of the Wind Chaser? Shuebwa Supreme asked. The 5 people who had been called to the name by Bloodwave Supreme looked at each other, but all frowned. Extreme Blood. Dominated by the purple pupil with a pair of weird purple eyes, Shin said, "It would be no problem for me to wait to go to the ancient ruins, but the team led by the King of Winds all encountered unexpectedness in the ruins, and a team of 5 people may not be weaker than the team of the King of the Wind, but in terms of personal strength, none of the 5 of us are the opponents of the King of the Wind. If you let me wait for the 5 to form a team, it would be a bit wrong to go there. You're right, even the King of the Wind team has encountered an accident. It would not be enough if only 5 of you went forward, so I would have chosen a leader for you. Bloodwave Supreme smiled. 9 calamities, call. A figure suddenly appeared in the center of the temple, and it was the 9 kings of white hair. And when I saw King Jiujia, the eyes of 5 people who had been worried about Zitong dominated immediately. King Jiujia, that is the strongest in the level of the life shrine, even called the strongest in the entire universe, is not an exaggeration. But he can fight against the Supreme. In the ancient ruins, the Supreme cannot be found out. Who will be the opponent of the King of 9 Calamities? If the team is led by King 9 Calamities, the risk will be much reduced. King of the 9 Calamities. The Supreme Bloodwave overlooked King Jiujia below, and said, "Go to the ruins of Tai Luo this time, and you will lead the team." Yes. King Jiujia stepped forward, and his face couldn't stop the joy. As early as 10,000 years ago, when the ruins of Tai Luo just came out of the world, he wanted to go, but at that time he had another burden on his body, so that the King of the Chasing Wind took the lead and went to the ruins of Daluo. Now that the King of the Wind is dying, the Shrine of Life needs to send another team to the ruins of Tai Luo. For the quota of this team, he has long been jealous. Even if Bo Sun did not say it, he would ask him to go to Tai Luo remains. Bloodwave Supreme nodded, and then looked again at the other ultimate masters in the hall. "I'll wait." The 5 pupils previously named Zitong dominated the 5, and all of them also arched. Seeing this, he nodded with satisfaction. The 5 people, plus King 9, are the weakest ones who dominate the top combat power. Among them are Zitong and Chiba, who are almost invincible. In the ancient ruins, even if you CNT get the treasure inside, if you want to encounter a crisis, you can at least retreat from your body. Okay, 6 of you go back and prepare, and leave in 3 months, and go to the ruins of Tai Luo. Supreme Bloodwave ordered. Yes. 6 people, such as the King of 9 Robbers, responded suddenly. Well, with the exception of Jian Wushuang, everyone else has dispersed. Bloodwave Supreme shook his hands, and the ultimate masters dispersed. When they walked out of the door of the Hall of Deliberation, they could not help but look at the sword named Wushuang, who was named by the Supreme Master of Blood, with a strange look on their faces. As the ultimate masters departed, the Hall of the Council became quiet, and the Bloodwave Supreme and the Great Axe Supreme, who had been stagnant, showed a smile on their faces after looking at Xiang Jianshuang. Little guy, 3,000 years broke through to the 4th level to dominate the realm, but it was faster than I thought. Bloodwave Supreme smiled slightly. Jian Wushuang heard the words and quickly arched. Thank you all for the guidance of Shuebwa seniors. If it wasn't for Shuebwa seniors who told me about Wu Daohe, I would not be able to break through the 4th level master so quickly. Oh, Wu Daohe is not a secret in the Palace of Life. You will know it naturally, no need to thank you. Xie Wuzhuang smiled brightly. The 3 didn't say much, and Jian Wushuang asked, Extreme Blood, you left me deliberately, presumably for the sake of Taro's ruins? As early as when he entered the Hall of Discussion, Jian Wushuang noticed that all the people who were present today were the ultimate level master, but Bloodwave Supreme deliberately circulated to him and asked him to come to a 4th level master. And then when the meeting broke up, the Supreme Master of Blood Waves specifically named him to stay and wanted to think about it. Naturally, it was not just to say a few words to him, but to the ruins of Tai Luo. Yes. Bloodwave Supreme nodded and said, Let you stay, it is indeed related to the ruins of Tai Luo. You also know that the ancient ruins and even an invincible Supreme have left countless numbers in the period. Chances and creations, and many of them will have an incredible effect on you who are just the masters. Chapter 413 The Leader, page 1/1. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4137. 2 more arrive today. Jian Wushuang, I have already discussed with the giant axe. This time the King of 9 Calamities will go to the ancient ruins. I will let them take you and go together. Even if you do and get too much chance in it, go see it. A big gain. After all, there are now a large number of powerful masters in the ruins, even the top ultimate masters, and even the ultimate masters of invincible levels, there are a lot of them there. Bloodwave Supreme laughed. Want me to go? Jian Wushuang frowned, followed by the sideline. If I can, I will naturally go, but this time the weakest in the ruins is the top ultimate dominator, and I, just the 4th rank dominated Willet. Are you still worried that you will drag their hind legs? Bloodwave Supreme looked at it with interest. Jian Wushuang, if I am not wrong, your current strength will not be weaker than the top ultimate dominator. How much? Jian Wushuang stunned, and a strange smile appeared on his face. I have already counted with the giant axe before. You used to be the 3rd level to dominate the level, but because of the power of 8,000 times that of ordinary practitioners, plus the willpower given to you by the laws of the universe, you in terms of strength, it will not be weaker than the ultimate master, and your perception of the laws of the universe will far exceed that of the master. Coupled with your talents and supernatural powers, your combat power should not be weaker than the top ultimate master. And now, you have already broken through to the 4th level, where there are only 8,000 times the divine power. You can be equivalent to the general ultimate master, plus that willpower, you are absolutely not inferior in strength. At the top of the ultimate domination, and finally counting your very high understanding of the laws of the universe, I estimate that your current combat strength is a lot stronger than the average top of the ultimate domination. Maybe it is no better than the master of the purple pupil. Chiba God, it's going to be weak. Can I be right? Shuewa Supreme smiled and looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. Sure enough, as he battled the king of the 9 calamities in the trial ground and exposed some of his own methods, the Bloodwave Supreme could easily determine his specific strength now. Indeed, although he is now the 4th level dominating level in the realm, as the Bloodwave Supreme has said, in terms of real combat power, he is much stronger than the average top-level ultimate dominator. And this is only known to the Supreme Master of Blood. Before the battle in the Proving Ground, Jian Wushuang still had some methods that had not been used, such as the 3 talents of magic. He only used one. There is also the mystery of dragon extermination, which he has never performed. In short, his current combat power is very strong. At least at the level of domination, it is very, very tyrannical. Coupled with his 68,000-mile-high body, he can accumulate endless divine power. As long as he is not supreme, he is not afraid of anyone. With such strength, Natural Sword Wushuang cannot drag the team behind Jiu Jiwang's team. The Taro ruins contain great opportunities, and there are a lot of top masters in the universe gathered there. Jian Wushuang did have a longing for Taro ruins. He did want to go inside and go through it. If he could get some chance or good fortune, it would be better. I'd love to go with them, I just don't know they can't stand me. Jian Wushuang smiled. You don't need to worry about this. After all, you will definitely have a chance to take the shot when you are in the ruins of Tai Luo. At that time, you will prove it to them. Bloodwave Supreme laughed. That line. Jian Wushuang nodded. Bloodwave Supreme turned his right hand, and in his hand, a dark black armor appeared. This war armor has a very strong breath of laws, which is truly a top-quality rule. Sword Warriors, this warframe is for you. Bloodwave Supreme looked at Sword Warriors and said, this warframe, although it is only the highest level of top-quality rules, is not very precious, but I am in the warframe. A mark of divine power was left on it. This mark of divine power was intentionally left by me based on the power restrictions of the heavy law formations in the ruins of Taro. Although there are many chances in the Taro ruins, there are also great dangers. Even their team of the King of the Wind has encountered unexpected events, and although this time led by the stronger King of the 9 robbers, it is difficult to guarantee. Therefore, if you encounter fierce danger in the Taro ruins, you can directly urge this mark of divine power. He can erupt the ultimate power that can be reached in the Taro ruins, which is the most powerful power in the dominating level. This might not be unexpected, and it should be a few points stronger than the strongest blow from King Jotsai. You can save it for life or kill the enemy. Blood Supreme explained. Jian Wushuang heard, but his look was a move. In itself, it is the top-level armor of the top-grade rule, coupled with the imprint of the divine power left by the Supreme of Bloodwave, which can erupt the most extreme power that the ruins can achieve in the Terra ruins. This armor, extraordinary value. Xianbo Senior. Jian Wushuang looked at Xingbo Supreme. Hold it, but you personally led me to the Temple of Life. Even the giant axe gave you a of goodness as a meeting gift. Naturally, I can't let it go. Bloodwave Supreme laughed. Jian Wushuang's brows lifted, and he no longer played up his emotions, and put this armor into the ring of Qiankuan. After 3 months, you will set out with the King of 9 Calamities and others to go to the ruins of Tailuo. In these 3 months, you can hurry up and refine this warframe first. Bloodwave Supreme rode. Yes. Jian Wushuang arched his hand and quickly left the temple. The 6th mountain, in the manor where Jian Wushuang is located. Jian Wushuang told Leng Rushuang about going to the ruins of Tailuo 3 months later. When I heard it as cold as frost, my heart immediately raised a hint of worry. Fu Jun, the Taro ruins are gathered by the top batch of masters in the universe. It all happened unexpectedly, and you were just the 4th level master. Before the words were as cold as frost, Jian Wushuang waved his hand and laughed. Relax, it may not be the best in that Taro ruins with my strength, but if it is just for life, few people should be able to remember me. Jian Wushuang really has absolute confidence in his life-saving means. In addition, the endless divine power contained in the 68,000-mile-high body alone is enough to despair any practitioner below. Not to mention, he also has life-saving talents and supernatural powers, and now you are bestowed with his top-class rule treasure. In 3 months, I first refined this rule of precious armor and refining it, so that in the ruins of Tailuo, I can truly ensure worry-free. Jian Wushuang began to refining the armor immediately. 3 chapters were added before, and there should be a few chapters left. We will continue to make up these days. Don't worry. Chapter 137th Rule of Top-Grade Arcana Warframe, page 1/1, bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4138. The first is more. Time flies. Blink of an eye is 3 months later. In front of a giant cosmic passage of life, 6 people, including King Jiujia, Zhu Zizhu, and Chiba God, have already waited there. Extreme blood waves summoned me before, and said that this time to the team of Tailuo ruins, in addition to the 6 of us, 1 person will join our team. Guess who will that person be? Shi Luyun Black, wearing a purple gold crown, purple awns flickered in his eyes, and smiled curiously. In the Palace of Life, although there are still many ultimate masters who have reached the top level, but they are strong and can free up their hands for the time being, they should be among 6 of me. As for the 7th person, just don't hinder us, just do it. Chiba is hanging on the waist. Chiba with a clear face dominates the indifference. It's hard to say. Qing Feng Ho also spoke. Zitong dominated several people to discuss casually. Obviously, the 7th person who suddenly came in line was not very impressed. Of the 6, the only white-haired King Jiujia did not participate in the discussion. He had his hands on his back, stood calmly, and had no emotion on his face. For him, the trial team, 1 more person or 1 less, will not have any impact on him. This time he entered the ruins of Tailuo, in his eyes, only himself. As for the others, what Zitong dominates and Chiba God the King does not even bother to look at him. Call out. As everyone discussed, a stream of light suddenly swept from the sky at an extremely fast speed. At the beginning, the streamer was just a small black spot on the horizon. After a few breaths, the streamer continued to enlarge and stood in front of them. Come here. Everyone raised their eyelids and stared at them. I saw the streamer burst, revealing a cold figure in black. Sword unparalleled? It turned out to be him? The 7th person is Jian Wushuang? He's not the 4th level master. Let's make fun. Dominion Zitong and others looked at each other with a flash of sorrow on their faces, but after just looking at each other, they all agreed, and Chongjian Wushuang showed a friendly smile. They can become the leader of the ultimate dominating level. Naturally, no one will be a fool. The the talent and potential of Jian Wushuang have been placed in front of them. That is enough to fight with the 9 kings in the trial field. When he won, he was only worse than the king of 9 calamities. Not surprisingly, this sword Wushuang will not say supreme in the future, but at least it is also at the level of King Jiujia, and it is invincible among the masters. For such a genius that can be expected in the future, Zitong Master and others are naturally reluctant to make sarcastic remarks, and easily dislike them. Jian Wushuang, I can't imagine that this 7th person will be you. What fun is your 4th level master over here? The Jiujiawang, who has not been silent, now narrows his eyes to Jian Wushuang and sneers. King of the 9th calamity. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold and his expression indifferent. Would I not bother you if I was going to make fun? After hearing the words, Zhujiawang raised his eyebrows and sneered even more. I am the leader of this squad. During this time, you'd better obey my order, otherwise something will happen, but don't blame me for being dead. Jian Wushuang heard a sneer and made no noise. This scene fell into the eyes of the other 5 masters, shaking their heads with a bitter smile. They all knew what happened before Jian Wushuang and Jiujiawang, and it was clear that both Jiujiawang and Jian Wushuang were proud people. They wouldn't be surprised if this scene appeared. 2 people, this time we are a team going to the ancient ruins, and there are a lot of hidden dangers in the ancient ruins. I think the 2 are more friendly. Zitong dominated the round field. Linheng of Zhujiawang snorted and didn't say much. Now that everyone is here, let's go. Immediately the cosmic passage opened, and 7 people entered the cosmic passage directly. Through the cosmic passage, although it is not possible to directly reach the Hengyang star field where the Tala ruins are located, it can also save a lot of time. In the vast universe, galaxies cross each other, and the stars are dotted on the sky, forming a bright sea of stars, a huge black cosmic boat, like a meteor, quickly passing through the starry sky, dragging a long tail flame. The place where the Terra ruins emerge is located in a corner of the deep universe. Even if a lot of time has been saved through the cosmic passage, and then ride a higher-ranking cosmic boat, all the way through the cosmic void, it will still travel for thousands of years. The next star field is Hengyang Star Field. It only takes about another 100 years to reach the Terra ruins. In the space boat, Chiba King looked at the bright star sea in front, looking rather excited. For nearly 1,000 years, they all spent time in the cosmic boat, facing the lonely universe all day long. They were a little bit impatient. Now that the ruins of Tai Luo are close to their eyes, they cannot help but feel a little excited. Dominion of Zitong is laughing. Speaking of which, the geographical location of Hengyang Star Field is among the many large star fields in the universe. Although it is a bit remote, it is still quite prosperous. It has broken through and reached the supreme level. If this Lord of Hengyang Starfield knows how to operate, at most dozens of chaos ages, he will be able to gain a firm footing in the depths of the universe. Unfortunately, the Taro ruins are in Hengyang, born in Daxinjiu. And after Hengyang Supreme found the ruins of Tai Luo, he wanted to swallow the ruins alone, and he didn't want to think that he was just an ordinary Supreme. How could he seize this opportunity by himself? Inflicted a terrible calamity on myself. Not only was he directly killed by others, but also all the sects of the powers in the Hengyang Starfield were wiped out by one hand. Today, except for the Taro ruins, the entire Hengyang Starfield it's no different from the wasteland. Everyone was talking, and they looked a little excited about the approaching tail ruins. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged in a corner and slowly opened his eyes. For thousands of years, he has completely refined and controlled the rules given to him by the Supreme Master of Blood, and has adjusted all aspects of his body to the peak. He has completely lived in the 4th level dominion, and has more or less strength. Some refinement. The centuries have passed, and the spacecraft in which Jian Wushuang and his party have arrived has arrived in the Hengyang Starfield and set off toward the ruins of Tai Luo. In this century, there are also cosmic boats constantly coming from other places, rendering the starry sky extremely bright. Chapter 4139. 2 more arrived today. In the spacecraft are the people of the great sun god kingdom. They are also here? That was the spaceship of the Taishu Temple. Alas, I heard that Taishu Shenzong has recently given out a powerful ultimate master. I don't know if that ultimate master has come this time. Well, are they from the Blood Temple? The people in the Blood Temple have always been fascinated. I have never heard of them for so many years, and I did not expect that this time they also sent the Lord to control the ruins of Terra. It has only been more than 10,000 years since the discovery of the Taro ruins. It is said that the ruins have only been developed to less than 10%. All forces in the universe, no matter how strong or weak, are eager for this Taro ruins. Knowing that the inside is dangerous and there are many powerful forces involved, but they are still sent by. Dominated by Zitong and others, they watched the starry sky constantly passing through some giant cosmic boats through the black light mirror of the cosmic boat and shook their heads to discuss. Each of them held a roll of sheepskin, which recorded the basic situation of some Taro ruins. There is also a copy of the sword without hands. This sheepskin roll is given to them by the Supreme of Blood Wave. The content recorded above is the content of the message returned by the team of the King of the Wind before roaming in the Taro ruins. According to the information above, this Taro ruins should be a big secret opened by Taro Supreme before his death that year. The inside is vast and boundless, and the King of Winds guessed that this secret should be more than one layer. But how many levels there are in the mystery, they don't know. Anyway, for thousands of years, he was spinning on the first floor. More than one layer? Jian Wu's eyes narrowed. He remembered the red cloud mystery that he had entered, and there were 3 layers in the red cloud mystery, and he had a great chance in the red cloud mystery. At the end of the sheepskin roll, it was also mentioned that the King of the Wind seemed to have found the entrance to the second floor of the Taro ruins before, and was preparing to find a way to enter the second floor. But at this time, the Squad King team encountered a crisis, and the whole army was not there. What happened to the King of the Wind in the ruins of Tai Luo? Was it killed by other forces? Or was there any danger or crisis in the second floor? Jian Wushuang closed the sheepskin roll and frowned slightly. If it is the former, it is possible to kill the King of the Wind, and to destroy the whole team of the King of the Wind, then the strength of the opponent is bound to be very good. However, if it is the latter, it means that the ruins of Tai Luo are not only all opportunities, but also a major crisis. Shaking his head, Jian Wushuang no longer thought about it. Soon, Jian Wushuang 7 arrived at the entrance of the Taro ruins. This Hengyang star field is deserted, and the Taro ruins are quite prosperous in front of the entrance. The major forces set up camps outside the Taro ruins. Some restaurants, donges, and trading markets came into being. Jian Wushuang even saw the Jyoti Pavilion outside the Taro ruins. Let's go! King 9 Calamities took the sword Wushuang's 6 people, walked down the spacecraft, waved his hand, and put away the spacecraft. At the moment when the 7 swordsmen came out of the spacecraft, countless eyes immediately looked at them. Most of these eyes are focused on the King of 9 Calamities. They are the masters of the Shrine of Life. The one headed by is the King of 9 Calamities? King of Calamities? He came. It is said that these 9 kings of calamity are the perfect life in the legend, and they have stayed for dozens of chaos in the ultimate level. Before their combat power, they were almost comparable to the Supreme. But the 9 kings is undoubtedly the strongest one. For the ruins of Tai Luo, the Temple of Life sent him all out? In the crowd, many of the ultimate masters looked at the King of Jiolong with a hint of fear. There is no way, the fame of King Zhujiao in the universe is really too great. The identity of the perfect life in the legend alone has to make people pay attention to him. What's more, she has stayed at the level of ultimate for dozens of times of chaos. Even her perception of the laws of the universe is extremely high. No one would dare to ignore such an ultimate master. Compared to the King of 9 robbers, the other 6 people were obviously covered by King of 9 robbers. In fact, like Zitong and Chiba, they are almost invincible among the ultimate masters. Among the many ultimate masters on the field, they are also top-notch, and their reputation is not small. Unfortunately, everyone around them only pays attention to the 9 kings. However, few people care about them. Chiba, have you seen that? They are all talking about the king of 9 robbers? Zitong dominated with a smile. In terms of strength, the king of 9 calamities is indeed a lot stronger than the two of us, but no matter how you say, you and I should not be completely ignored. Chiba Shinjun said coldly. It is estimated that there are too many ultimate dominators from the Terra ruins, and the top ones have also come a lot. You and I are not as impressive as the king of the 9 kings. The pupil of Zitong smiled. Indeed, the birth of the Terra ruins this time attracted too many ultimate masters. All forces in the universe have sent the ultimate masters, and some of them have their peaks. Nearly invincible ultimate masters, such as Zitong Master and Chiba God Prince, there are many in the Terra ruins, and naturally they pay less attention to them. But the King of 9 Kings is different. The King of 9 Kings, but in the vast universe, the ultimate master at least can be ranked in the top 3. More people naturally pay attention. Suddenly, a figure without any sign appeared in front of the 7 members of Jianwushuang. King of Calamity, it's been a long time since I saw him. The cold voice also started to differ. Everyone heard the sound, and saw a young man in a black robe with a hooked nose, staring grimly at King Jujia. Yinpeng, are you? The pupil of Jijiawang shrank then sneered, Yinpeng, you fortunately escaped from my hand 3 million years ago. I was still worried that I could not find you. You are still returning dare to appear in front of me? The hawk-nosed man named Yinpeng flashed a cold mang in his eyes and said coldly, King of the 9 calamities, do you know it was 3 million years ago? 3 million years is enough to do a lot of things. Since you have also come to this Taro ruins this time, let's resolve the grievances between you and me together. Any time. The king of Jojia smiled coldly without fear. Joke, with his strength, who can do him awe among the masters? The hawk-nosed man turned his gaze and looked at Zitong Juju and others. His gaze swept away from several people such as Zitong Juju. The cold gaze stared at them. Suddenly his eyes stopped. Chapter 4140. The first is more. I'm not mistaken. Among your people, there is still a 4th-level master? The hawk-nosed man raised a brow, but then sneered directly, Ha! The Temple of Life, are you human? Did you let a 4th-level master come over to make fun? Is it for cannon fodder? His loud laughter also attracted the attention of many strong players around him. 4th grade dominates? Well, really. In the ruins of Tai Luo, the ultimate dominator is everywhere, and even the top of the ultimate dominator exists. There are many 4th-level masters who come here to do what? A 4th-level master will also enter the Terra ruins? Shall he die? Many strong players around laughed secretly. It's normal. There are too many strong people attracted by the Taro ruins. Even if it is the ultimate dominator, it seems very ordinary in the Taro ruins, and will not be seen more. And a 4th-level dominated, naturally, no one sees it. Perceived all kinds of strange gazes around him, Jianwu's eyes stared slightly, but he did not say anything. King of the 9 calamities, I have some sympathy for you, because I have never been able to break through and become supreme. I have not seen much in the Temple of Life. Now I have to wait for an opportunity to come to this Taro ruins. To bring a towing oil bottle. The man with a hawk nose laughed wantonly. Yinpeng, if you are tickling now, I don't mind, now I will fight with you in this battle. The king of 9 calves looked at the man with a hawk nose. You and I fight or wait until the ruins. The hawk-nosed man laughed, stopped talking nonsense, and turned away. The dominators of the forces from all sides around have also retreated. King of the 9 calamities, it seems that we have all been spotted before we have entered the ruins of Tai Luo. The god of Chiba said lowly. Huh, but one of his men was defeated. 300 years ago, he just managed to escape in front of me, and this time if he dared to come to the door again, I would just shot him and kill him. King Jujiadeo. I hope so. Chiba god smiled coldly. He knew that Yinpeng, the hawk-nosed man, had just dominated. In terms of fame, this Yinpeng dominates the universe. It is indeed not as big as the King of Nine Calamities, but his strength is definitely not weak. Especially the perception of the laws of the universe is said to have reached a very high level, plus some with special mystery techniques. This Yinpeng dominates the countless ultimate masters in the vast universe. It can definitely be ranked in the top 20. It is a very difficult ultimate master. If it is 1-to-1, whether it is Chiba King or Zitong, it is not necessarily the opponent that Yinpeng dominates. This has not yet entered the ruins of Tai Luo, and it has been targeted by such a powerful master. This is naturally not a good thing for their team. Well, stop talking nonsense and get ready to enter the ruins of Tai Luo. King Zhuja said. A group of 7 people had reached the entrance of the Terra ruins. In the empty space, a vertical bronze giant gate traverses the starry sky. The giant gate is engraved with the 2 characters, Taro. In addition, there are countless mysterious lines on the border of the giant gate, exuding an ancient atmosphere. This is the entrance to the ruins of Tai Luo. Just walk through this giant bronze gate to enter the ruins of Tai Luo. 6 of you are in the ruins, follow me well, or if you have caused any trouble, I don't have the time to save you, do you understand? Especially you, Jian Wushuang. When entering the ruins, leave at the forefront of the 9 kings of the 9 kings took a hand, with a cold face, turned back with a warning sign. For King Zhujia's warning, the sword nodded without expression on both sides, but Chiba Shinjun and others seemed a little disapproved. Zitong, you and I are also the best among the ultimate masters. Is it necessary for him to protect the king of the 9 kings? What is his attitude towards us along the way? Well, don't say if you will encounter any troubles in this Terra ruins. Even if you do, it is probably enough for you and I to join forces. It is probably enough to balance it out. Why should he be the king of the 9? When Tong was in charge of the communication, she was obviously a little bit uneven. Chiba, let us say a few words. You still do know the king of the 9 calamities? You have always been arrogant and you do take us seriously in the Temple of Life. Now it's normal to speak a little bit. After all, his strength is better than us, let him be. The master of Zitong said with a smile, but in his tone, I do know why people always have a strange feeling of yin and yang. In the trial ground, was defeated by a 3rd-level master, can you not be strong? The 2 looked at each other with a tacit understanding, and said nothing more. A few moments later, under the leadership of King Jiuzai, a group of 7 people stepped into the bronze giant gate of Tai Luo ruins. The 7 men first passed through a dark void, then they suddenly lighted up before they saw that they had fallen into a huge expansive plain. This is the ruins of Taro? Sure enough, my soul's power is obviously released, and the coverage is quite wide, but there is no one in my soul's coverage. In the present Tail ruins, no accident should be dominated everywhere, and the branch should be quite dense. And an ultimate master, the soul coverage is naturally extremely wide. As a result, within the soul coverage of Chiba God, no one has encountered it, which shows that the space of this Taro ruins is indeed very vast. Well, the aura here is also quite strong. If you practice here, 1 day of training, I'm afraid it's worth 3 days of training outside. Zitong dominated with a smile. Several other members of the squad were also watching the surroundings. And Jian Wushuang, after stepping into the ruins of Tai Luo, his brows lifted instantly. Here, the rich origins of Kendo universe. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He could sense that the buildings and mountains and rivers in the Taro ruins should have been opened up by Taro's supreme sword. The peaks of each mountain in it were extremely smooth, cut by a sword and made ordinary. This made him wonder how amazing the power of Tai Luo Supreme was that he could become the world with 1 sword. Jian Wushuang, speaking of this Tai Luo ruins, among the 7 of us, it should be your best chance. Qing Feng, who was next to Jian Wushuang, suddenly smiled and said, Oh! Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and looked at Qing Feng Shenhe. God, how do you say that? Jian Wushuang, you may not know. Although this Tai Luo Supreme was at the highest level of the Supreme, but there is still a slight gap compared to the Invincible Supreme. Qing Feng explained with a smile. Chapter 41-41. Two more arrived today. The reason why Taro Supreme later became Invincible Supreme and created such a great reputation in the vast universe is largely because of the Taro Great Sword in his hand. Qing Feng Shenhou said. Taro Excalibur? Jian Wushuang's eyes showed curiosity. Regarding Tai Luo Supreme, he didn't know much about it except knowing that he was an invincible supreme-level universe master. Qing Feng nodded his head and replied, no one has ever been able to master the genius of Kendo-'s Kendo. In the universe at the time, he had the title of Kendo Supreme. He died under his sword. Know how many? Even now, after hundreds of chaos eras, countless Kendo masters have sprung up in the universe, and under the light of Taro Supreme, they all look overshadowed, and no one can be called a Kendo Supreme again. Title. And that Taro sword is the help of Taro Supreme to break through the universe. It can be said that if there is no Taro sword, there will be no subsequent Taro Supreme. Of course, there is no Taro Supreme, naturally, there is no prestigious Taro Excalibur, and the two achieve each other. Jian Wushuang heard the words, nodded thoughtfully, and then asked, Qing Feng Shenhou, what about that sacred sword? Qing Feng Shenhou groaned after hearing the words and replied, I don't know about this. Some people say that the Taro Excalibur was buried in the ruins along with Taro Supreme's body, and some people said the Taro Excalibur was taken away by the person who killed Taro Supreme. Anyway, for all these 10,000 years, there are all kinds of claims, but basically they are not enough to believe. After speaking, Qing Feng Shenhou patted the sword Wushou's shoulder and smiled. Sword Wushuang, you don't have to fight the idea of the Taro magic sword, even if you are really lucky and find the Taro Excalibur is not a fourth-level master that you can possess. I understand this. Jian Wushuang smiled at him. Indeed, as Qing Feng Shenhou said, even if he got the Tai Luo divine sword, I was afraid that he would be hunted down by the whole universe before he had time to cover it. But it's not just the level that dominates. It is estimated that even the Supreme Strong will be tempted and desperate to get the Taro Excalibur. Well, let's go and say this is too far away. Qing Feng smiled and said, in the ruins of Tai Luo, although I haven't heard of a huge crisis, but there is no rule, it is actually the biggest, it's dangerous. Whenever you get any treasure, I am afraid that you will be attacked by the group. I heard that in the past 10,000 years, there have been many powerful ultimate masters who have been killed in the ruins. Although the King of Nine Kings is proud, he has no bad intentions, and his combat strength is extremely horrible. We only need to follow him closely and think that if we are lucky enough to get an opportunity in the ruins, we can still retreat. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. Although he did not have a good opinion of King Zhujia, he had to say that King Zhujia was indeed the most powerful among the seven of them. The seven said as they walked, although they did not deliberately rush, they were not slow. They quickly crossed the plain and reached a palace group. Seeing this, the leader of Chiba and others flashed an excitement in his eyes. He was about to search for it, and saw the king of Jilong coldly said, this palace group is so conspicuous that people have been here for more than 10,000 years. People go, you do indeed need to know that you have been turned upside down. What are you going to find besides wasting time? Chiba's ruler heard the words, and a moment of annoyance flashed in his eyes. He was rather dissatisfied and sneered, King of the Nine Calamities, since you are the leader of our team, I don't know, what are your plans? King Zhujia gave him a faint glance and said, this time we come to the ruins of Tai Luo, we have three main purposes. First, find the second-level entrance mentioned by the King of the Wind. This is the top priority of our visit to the ruins of Tai Luo. If I expected it to be good, it should be a space enchantment, and there the enchantment place should be extremely hidden, otherwise it will never be this 10,000-year time, and only the King of the Wind will find them. Therefore, we only need to avoid crowded places and look in remote directions. The second is to investigate the cause of the death of the King of the Wind. I have thought about it along the way. The death of the King of the Wind is nothing more than two reasons, or there are some terrorist prohibitions at the entrance to the second floor. Only then will the King of the Wind be wiped out in an instant, and even the message is too late. Or, it will be stared at and killed. As soon as this sentence came to an end, everyone couldn't help but have a cold heart. The strength of the Squad King squad was placed there so that their squad could be wiped out, and even the information was too late to come. Therefore, in these two kinds of speculation, everyone believes the former speculation more. The King of the Nine Kings ignored the expressions of the crowd and continued, "Moreover, investigating the cause of death of the King of the Wind does not conflict with the first point. As long as the cause of the death of the King of the Wind can be found, you can master Tai Luo. The news on the second level of the ruins, as for the third point, is the opportunity to search for the ruins. However, the terrestrial ruins have a vast territory. Although all forces in the universe have searched here for tens of thousands of years, there are not many opportunities to find. In other words, a lot of opportunities are still buried in this ruin. Don't be too anxious, find out the cause of their death, and find the entrance to the second floor of the Terra Relics. It is the most urgent task, so I advise you to cancel the idea of searching for opportunities." After the Jijiaweng said, he took a look at the Chiba god. Chiba's face suddenly became ugly. The king of Jiolong said this in front of the owner of the team, but then looked at him with such eyes, the meaning was too obvious. Seems to be persuading everyone, but actually is warning him. "King of Nine Calamities, what do you mean?" Chiba's voice was cold. "What do you mean you know in your heart?" King Jiojia gave him a slight glance. "You." Chiba God Prince just wanted to get angry and was caught by the master of Zitong. I saw the master of Zitong shook his head slightly at him, begging him not to take sway. When Chiba saw this, he snorted coldly and didn't bother to look at the king of Jiolong. Among the 7 people, Jian was eyes and noses and eyes were like the old monk, and his emotions on his face didn't change much. The speculation of King Jiojia is quite similar to what he thought. Although he also longed for any chance in the ruins of Tai Luo, he did not force it. After all, chance is about a word of fate, and it was originally forced. What's more, if something extraordinary happened in the Taro ruins, it will surely cause a sensation, and they don't need to actively seek it out. Chapter 41-42. The first is more. As time passed, 7 people, such as Jian Wushuang and Jiu Zhuang, blinked in eyes, and they have been in the ruins of Tai Luo for 10 years. In the ruins of Tai Luo, there are many masters. Because there are no rules at all, assassination is extremely frequent. Even if there is no resentment between each other, it is also possible to fight against the treasures of the opponent. In the past 10 years, Jian Wushuang had seen them many times, but in the past 10 years, there was no unscrupulous master to provoke them. After all, their 7-member squad has a very strong overall strength, especially the King of Nine Kings, and his presence alone is enough to make most of the dominant squads in the Tail Ruins dare not fight their ideas. In the past 10 years, Jian Wushuang spent most of their time inquiring about the King of the Wind. The King of the Wind is the almost invincible existence in the Ultimate Master. He has a good reputation and knows many people. It is easy for them to play Jian Wushuang. In 10 years they also got some news. However, the news they received was to make them look strange. According to the Master in the Tail Ruins, the team led by the King of Winds has set off a huge storm in the Tail of Ruins 3,000 years ago, but the team of the King of Winds has disappeared since 3,000 years ago, as if the world had evaporated same. It disappeared 3,000 years ago? And if only one person said so, the key is that they asked many masters along the way and got the same answer. Jian Wushuang and others could not help but groan. The King of Winds asked for help from the Temple of Life 1,000 years ago. After getting help from the King of the Wind, just 3 months later, they set off from the Temple of Life and went to and from this Taro ruins. So, there are 2,000 years left. Where is the King of the Wind? In those 2 millennia, the King of the Wind maintained communication with the Shrine of Life, but the Shrine of Life did not receive the slightest news from them. Just the last message of help. What's going on? These, Jian Wushuang, they cannot figure out for the time being. In addition, in the past 10 years, some things happened in the sword team of 7 swordsmen, that is, the contradiction between God of Chiba and King of Nine Calamities, which has deteriorated rapidly and has a faint smell of gunpowder. There is no way, The king of 9 calamities is a man of arrogance and vision. Among the masters, few people were put in his eyes. Even the Chiba gods and the Zitong masters were almost invincible among the masters, but in the eyes of the king of Jiulong, they were still nothing. But Chiba and Zitong dominated, and they can reach this step at the level of dominance. They have some arrogance at the bottom of their hearts, especially Chiba, and they are not willing to live under others. Such two people are not in a small team. Contradictions are strange. 7 people sat cross-legged in a towering hall. Well, when do you find this? When do you have to find it? Chiba God looked gloomy, staring at Jujin Wang and sneered, "What the second layer is just their speculative image." As for the King of the Wind, they are also estimated by what only when people pay attention to them will the entire army be wiped out. And since those people are ready to shoot, naturally they will not leave any traces, and we will naturally find nothing. King Jiujia indifferent glanced at Chiba King. "What do you want to say?" Chiba Goddess' eyes were a little stunned, and he said, "This is too much ruins, and there are many chances and treasures. Finding ways to get these treasures and chances is what we should do now, even if we can't find the chances ourselves. It is entirely possible to kill other teams or masters in the Terra ruins. At that time, we will also have a lot of gains. As for the team of the King of the Wind, let us set aside first." After that, Chiba God's eyes swept across the 7 men, including Jian Wushuang, and laughed, "What do you think of my proposal?" As soon as the words fell, everyone couldn't help but a little commotion. After all, the life and death of the King of the Wind is actually irrelevant to them. They came to the Terra ruins, basically for the chance. "I think Chiba's proposal is feasible." The master of Hitomi immediately echoed with a smile. The old man thinks, "Well, the second layer of the ruins is not a sure thing, and we are not going to look for the space enchantment of the second layer, but we should really spend more time on it. Go to find treasures. As for the death of the King of the Wind team, you can also slowly investigate." The old veteran of the 7, the master of Jiuyang said, bowing his head. "That's right, 9 kings, we are not going to investigate the cause of the death of the King of the Wind, but just take a moment and look for the treasure first. I heard that not long ago, there was a top-quality rule in the south. When we are born, why don't we go and see together?" Chi Nan, the master, also said. 3 of the 7 agreed with Chiba's words, and Chiba's mouth immediately drew a smile. He turned his gaze and looked at Jian Wushuang again, and smiled. "What do you think of Jian Wushuang?" He believes that, except for Qin Feng, who has always been invincible, everyone else will definitely support him. He was also confident that by then the 5 of them would work together to put pressure on the King of 9 calamities, and even if it was the King of 9 calamities, they would have to bow their heads. "Are you asking me?" Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. "Of course." Chiba Lord nodded with a smile. In his opinion, there was always a feud between Jian Wushuang and the King of Jiuzhai, and there was no doubt he would be on his side. There are a lot of chance treasures in the ruins of Tai Luo. If you can get nature, it is good, but I am not very interested in killing other teams and masters. Jian Wushuang replied indifferently. Chiba dominated slightly. Even Jiujia Wang looked slightly surprised at Xiang Jian Wushuang. "Jian Wushuang, do you mean, are you not planning to be with us?" The other masters narrowed their eyes. The feud between Jian Wushuang and the King of 9 calamities is in their eyes. In the past 10 years, the two have spoken less than 3 times. As a general rule, Jian Wushuang should be hostile to the King of 9 calamities and stand with them. Only one side is right. Jian Wushuang replied faintly. "Okay, sword unparalleled, then you're wasting time here with the King of 9 calamities." Chiba Shinjun completely lost his good looks at the sword unparalleled, and after a cold hum, he said, "Let's go." After that, for people including God of Chiba, Lord of Hitomi, Lord of Jiuyang and Lord of Qinan, left here in great strides. After the 4 of them left, the hall suddenly quieted down. C4143, 4143 conflict. 4143 conflict. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang, ninth Kulpa King, and the other three had been in the Taro vestige for 10 years. There were many rulers in the Taro vestige. Because there were no principles, there were frequent fights. Even if there was no enmity between them, they might fight each other because they coveted the treasures on each other's bodies. Jian Wushuang and the others had seen such fights many times in the past 10 years. However, during these 10 years, no ignorant rulers dared to provoke them. After all, their 7-man team was very strong, especially with 9th Kulpa King in charge. His existence alone was enough to make most of the rulers' teams in the Taro vestige not dare to attack them. During the past 10 years, Jian Wushuang and the others spent most of their time asking around for information about Zhufeng King. Zhufeng King was an almost invincible existence among the ultimate rulers. He was famous and knew many people. It was easy for Jian Wushuang and the others to ask around. In the past 10 years, they had received some information. However, the news made them look a little strange. According to the rulers in the Taro ruins, the team led by Zhufeng King had caused a great storm in the Taro ruins 3,000 years ago. However, the team had disappeared 3,000 years ago. It was as if they had disappeared from the world. Disappeared 3,000 years ago? It would have been fine if only one person had said that. The key was that they had asked many rulers along the way and received the same answer. Box novel. C0M Jian Wushuang and the others could not help but ponder. Zhufeng King had asked for help from the Life Palace 1,000 years ago. Only 3 months after he had asked for help, they had set off from the Life Palace and traveled to the Taro ruins. Where did they go in the next 2,000 years? During those 2,000 years, they kept in contact with the Divine Life Palace, but the Divine Life Palace did not receive any news from them. Only the last message for help. What was going on? Jian Wushuang and the others could not figure it out for the time being. In addition, during the past 10 years, something had happened in the 7-man team. The conflict between Emperor Thousand Leaves and 9th Kulpa King had worsened rapidly, and it was starting to smell of gunpowder. 9th Kulpa King was proud and arrogant. He did not think much of many rulers. Even though Emperor Thousand Leaves and Ruler Purple Eye were almost invincible among rulers, they were still nothing in the eyes of 9th Kulpa King. However, Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves and Ruler Violet Eye were more or less proud to be able to reach the ruler realm. This was especially so for Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves. He was unwilling to be under anyone. It would be strange if such 2 people were in a small team. It would be strange if there were no conflicts. In a towering hall, 7 people were sitting cross-legged. How long will it take to find them like this? Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' expression was gloomy. He stared at 9th Kulpa King and said with a sneer, "What's 2nd level? It's just their guesses." As for Zhufeng King and company, they were probably targeted by someone before they were wiped out. And since those people were prepared to attack, they naturally would not leave any traces behind. We naturally could not find anything. 9th Kulpa King gave Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves an indifferent glance. "What are you trying to say?" Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves narrowed his eyes slightly. He said, "There are many opportunities and treasures in the Taro vestige. We should try to find them. Even if we can't find them ourselves with our team's strength, we can kill other teams or rulers in the Taro vestige. At that time, we can also gain a lot. As for the Zhufeng King team, let's put it aside for now." After saying that, Emperor Thousand Leaves glanced at Jian Wushuang and the others and said with a smile, "What do you think of my suggestion?" As soon as he said that, everyone could not help feeling a little restless. After all, the life and death of Zhufeng King did not matter to them at all. They came to the Taro vestige for the opportunity. "I think Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' suggestion is feasible." Ruler Violet Eye immediately agreed with a smile. "I think, yes. The 2nd level of the ruins is something that cannot be completely confirmed. It's not that we don't want to look for the 2nd level spatial enchantment, but we should indeed spend more time searching for treasures. As for the Zhufeng King team's death, we can slowly investigate it," said the veteran ultimate ruler. The 9-yang ruler said with his head lowered. "That's right. 9th Kulpa King, it's not that we are not investigating the cause of Zhufeng King's death. We are just taking a breather and searching for treasures first. I heard that not long ago, an upper-grade nomological cardinal treasure appeared in the south. Why don't we go and take a look together? Said the Chinon ruler. 3 of the 7 agreed with Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' words, and a smile appeared on his face. He turned his eyes to Jian Wushuang again and said with a smile, Jian Wushuang, what do you think? He believed that everyone would support him, except Divine Marquis Qingfeng, who had never fallen. At the same time, he was confident that when the 5 of them worked together to pressure Ninth Kulpa King, even he would have to bow his head. Are you asking me? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Of course. Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves nodded with a smile. In his opinion, there had always been a feud between Jian Wushuang and Ninth Kulpa King, so there was no doubt that he would stand on his side. There are many opportunities and treasures in Taro Vestige. It would be good if I could get them, but am not interested in killing other teams and rulers, Jian Wushuang replied indifferently. What? Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' expression changed slightly. Even the Ninth Kulpa King raised his head and looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Jian Wushuang, do you mean you don't want to come with us? Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' expression was a little gloomy. The other rulers also narrowed their eyes. They had seen the feud between Jian Wushuang and the Ninth Kulpa King. In the past 10 years, they had barely talked more than 3 times. Logically speaking, Jian Wushuang should hate the Ninth Kulpa King. It was right for him to stand on their side. Yes, Jian Wushuang replied indifferently. Good. Jian Wushuang, then you should waste your time here with Ninth Kulpa King. Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves' face was completely unfriendly to Jian Wushuang. After a cold snort, he said, Let's go. With that, Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves, Ruler Purple Eye, Ruler Nine Yang, and Ruler Chinon strode out of the hall. After the 4 of them left, the hall suddenly became quiet. Chapter 41-44. The first is more. Intercept other dominating squads and plunder the opponent's treasures. This is actually not easy to see in the universe. After all, although there are a lot of strong players in the universe, under normal circumstances, it is very difficult to gather so many powerful ultimate masters. Only if this Taro ruins are now in the world and restrict the entry of the supreme power, will there be countless ultimate masters swarming in. It is precisely because there are too many masters in the gathering that the killing battles become extremely frequent, and this halfway interception becomes commonplace. The reason why Chiba God and Zitong dominated the 4 before they chose to part ways with the 9 kings and Jian Wushuang is because of the constraints of the 9 kings. King Jiujia is proud and arrogant, and he disdains to intercept those weaker dominating teams, and King Jiujia is also investigating the cause of the destruction of the team of King of the Wind, but Chiba God cannot help them. As soon as the 4 of them broke away from the King of Jiujia, they immediately began to intercept and kill other master teams in the Taro ruins. And this shot, the harvest is quite rich. This magic rain kingdom is one of the most common kingdoms in the vast universe. There are only 6 ultimate dominators in the strong squad they sent over, and there are only 2 ultimate dominators at the top level. With such a strength, he dared to move around in the ruins of Taro. Chiba God Jun smirked. They were lucky before. They didn't meet the powerful team that dominated them. Unfortunately, they now met the 4 of us, and they only had a rout. Zitong also laughed. Unfortunately, the 8 Cloud Demon Lords were not able to stay. The 8 Cloud Demon Lords are the top ultimate masters headed by the 6-man squad of Demon God Kingdom. For more than 10,000 years, they have received many in this Taro ruins. Benefits, it is estimated that a lot of them are concentrated on the Lord of the 8 Clouds. Zhuyang ruled. No way, although the Lord of the 8 Clouds is only the ultimate master, and his strength is far less than me and Zitong, but his ability to save lives is not too weak. Even if I join forces with Zitong, it is difficult to kill him. Chiba Monarchy. Unfortunately, that Qingfeng God Ho has never been with us, otherwise, with his entanglement methods, he is completely hopeful to leave the Lord of the 8 Clouds. Zitong dominated. Qingfeng? Chiba God is Lengheng. Qingfeng Shenhou is just the top ultimate dominating level, But what he is best at is entanglement of trapped people. On the subject of entanglement, whether it is Chiba God or Zitong, he is far less than Qingfeng Shenhe. If Qingfeng Shenhe was with them, just now they really have a lot of confidence to leave the Lord of the Eight Clouds. Qingfeng, this fool, he is willing to follow the King of the Nine Robbers, so let him continue to follow, and that sword is unparalleled, dominated by the 4th level. I am afraid that even the cannon fodder is not counted in this Taro ruins. If we follow us, maybe we can give him a little bit of benefit, but he has to follow the King of Calamity. With the proud and overbearing nature of King of Calamity, even if he really got any chance, there is no one share? Chiba said with a sneer. The 3 pupils dominated each other and nodded secretly. Indeed, there were certain reasons why they chose to leave before, because King Nine Kings behaved very aggressively. Following King Nine Kings, even if they really got any chance, they may not be able to share any benefits, so it's not as good. They parted ways with the King of Nine Calamities, and they did well on their own. Don't bother with them, we continue to wander in this Taro ruins. With the strength of the 4 of us, as long as we do not meet the dominant team of the top forces in the universe, there is nothing to be afraid of, and even if we really encounter that kind of strong team, the 4 of us joined forces, and I have the confidence to protect myself. Chiba Shinjun said. Immediately, the 4 of them continued to wander in the ruins of Tai Luo. In a flash of time, 50 years have passed. In the past 50 years, the 4 Chiba gods have plundered other dominating squads throughout the ruins. Under the team of the 4, many weaker dominating squads have been seeded. Of course, although the 4 people are looting everywhere, they are also robbing by different objects, such as some masters from the great cosmic forces, or some powerful and famous ultimate masters, but they will not easily provoke them. With the 4 of them working together, there are very few strong teams in the ruins of Tai Luo who can really do anything to them. Therefore, in the past 50 years, the 4 of them have been mixed and gained a lot of benefits. It is interesting that in the past 50 years, the 3 swordsmen Wu Jian also met once with the Chiba gods. Of course, this encounter did not produce much stormy waves. Just after a few ridicules and sarcasm, they went to each other. A secluded corner in the Taro ruins. The King of Nine Robbers, Sword Wushuang, and Qingfeng Shenhe were investigating the entry point of the 2nd floor 1 inch by 1 inch. Suddenly, okay. The Sword Wushuang 3 looked up at the same time. I saw a void in the surrounding area, and there was a strong breath of Changhong coming at an astonishing speed. The King of Nine Calamities had a dim look, and his body flickered in the next moment, and he was already standing in front of this dominating team. The team of 5 members of this dominating team stopped immediately. Pooh! Stopped halfway. The 5 who dominated the squad were a little angry. As the body of King Jujia gradually condensed in front of the 5 people, the 5 people who were originally angry were trembled in the heart the next moment. King of Nine Calamities. King of Nine Calamities in the Temple of Life. The 5 men who dominated the squad trembled. This time the ruins of Tai Luo are here, a large number of powerful masters from the vast universe, and some of the more famous and powerful masters are naturally well known. The King of Nine Calamities is undoubtedly one of the most famous among the many ultimate dominators in the universe. The 5 people who dominate this team can naturally be recognized. At the same time, they also all know the strength of King Jujia. Undoubtedly, the 9 kings alone is enough to sweep the 5-member team directly, and they have no room for struggle. Seeing the King of Nine Calamities standing in front of them, they were naturally frightened. 5 people, see where you are in a hurry. Where are you going? The King of Jiulong looked over. Jian Wushuang and Qingfeng God Ho also appeared next to King Jujia. Jian Wushuang also noticed that the 5-man-dominated team was very fast and very anxious, as if they were in a hurry to go. Upon hearing the inquiries from King Jiulong, the 5 masters looked at each other face to face, and the top ultimate leader, who was immediately headed, said, "Since King Jiulong has been met by you, I will not hide you. Just now we got the news, saying it is in Fengyang Canyon that a superb magic medicine was born." Chapter 41-45. Second more. Divine medicine is born? Jian Wushuang looked. When this elixir was born, it was very dynamic. It has attracted many powerful men to rush past, and among those who have passed, some people have recognized this elixir and said that this elixir, it can be refined into a magic pan, which can increase the chance of breaking the supreme. Said the top ultimate master. What are you talking about? In the eyes of King Nine Calamity, a fierce light burst out. Jian Wushuang Yu Qingfeng Shenhou was also shocked in the heart. The two looked at each other, and they could not help but feel a rush of astonishment. Extremely rare magic drugs are rare. In particular, this kind of magic medicine that can make the ultimate dominator increase some chances of breaking the supreme that is even more rare in the universe. Jian Wushuang is still the 4th level dominator. It is not particularly urgent to need such a breakthrough elixir, but those ultimate dominators are different. That was a breakthrough. This is what any ultimate dominator dreams of. Even if this magic medicine can only increase the chance of breaking some extremes, it is enough to make all the ultimate masters crazy. Like the King of Nine Calamities. King Jiujia has always been the first genius recognized in the Temple of Life, at least until the sword Wushuang arrived. However, the status of Jiujia Wang in the Palace of Life is getting lower and lower these years, because he has been staying at the ultimate dominance level for too long, and the Palace of Life has given him enough resources and costs. Being able to break through and become supreme, this has caused many seniors in the Palace of Life to be disappointed in him. Over the years, the King of Nine Calamities has been reluctant to endure. Even if he realizes the terrible killing tricks of the Kingdom of God, he has never been exposed. It is because he knows that for him, only by breaking through to become supreme can he truly climb to a whole new level, otherwise nothing else is useless. It can be said that among the many ultimate masters in the Palace of Life, King Jiujia's desire to break the supreme is the strongest. After all, he already has the supreme combat power now, and mastered the Kingdom of God. Once he breaks through to become the supreme, it must be the top supreme combat power, and the potential is even greater in the future. But the key is that after so many years he has been unable to break through, and even he himself is somewhat unsure whether he has the possibility to break into the supreme. And now, there is a huge opportunity in front of him. This is the magic medicine born now. This strain can be refined into a magic potion that can increase the chance of breaking the supreme. Even if it only increases the chance of breakthrough by 10%, it is definitely enough to make Jiujia Wang crazy. But what you said is true. The King of Juzai's eyes burned, staring at the 5 people in front of him. Of course it is true. Now that the news has spread, it is estimated that there are already a lot of masters rushing there, but it should take a while for the birth of the elixir. If you immediately rush past it, maybe it will return urgent, said the top ultimate master. Go, let's hurry up. Jiujia Wang gave a low sigh, and his speed broke out instantly. Jian Wushuang glanced at Qingfeng God Ho, and neither of them hesitated, and immediately followed. The Terra ruins are huge and immense. Many of the masters in the universe have spent thousands of years in the Terra ruins. Many places in the Terra ruins have been named. For example, Fengyang Canyon was ordered because a Fengyang fruit was born here. The Fengyang God fruit is also a rare treasure. However, it was not long before the birth of Fengyang Shenghua. In this Fengyang Canyon, there was even a more precious superb medicine. Fengyang Gorge is not too far away from where the Swordsman 3 are located. At the speed of 3 people, the 3 arrived at Fengyang Gorge in less than half an hour. I saw the mighty Fengyang Canyon, above the void, filled with people. Countless masters confronted each other, swords stretched out, and the air was full of gunpowder. The 3 swordsmen, the King of 9 robbers, did not appear in a hurry, but hid in a void, watching this scene from afar. There are so many powerful people. Jian Wushuang looked at the numerous masters gathered in front of them. These masters were almost all the ultimate masters, and many of them were already at the top level among the ultimate masters. Even the nearly invincible masters like the Chiba gods and the Zitong masters have more than 10 players on the field. And this has already appeared, and many of them are estimated to be hiding in the surrounding void, waiting for opportunities. Potion, still there. King Jujia's eyes flickered with unprecedented sharpness, staring at the void in the middle of the canyon, where a whole body was blood-colored, exuding a unique breath of magic medicine. 9 kings of the nation do even know this magic medicine, but there are so many strong players in the field, and many of them have great talents on geniuses and divine treasures, or some of them have great accomplishments. They are so greedy about this magic medicine. Obviously, after the divine medicine is made into the panacea, it can increase the chance of dominating the supremacy, which should be true. It seems that we are not late yet, but there are so many hosts here, including the team from Taishu Temple and Shuetian Temple. It is not so easy to get the magic medicine from the eyes of so many people. King Jia narrowed his eyes. Although he is proud and arrogant, he is not blindly arrogant. The dominating squads under the influence of these great forces in the universe have a lot of strength. He also feels headaches. You must know that the masters sent by the top forces in the universe are unlikely to have the weak. The King of 9 Calamities, your old friend, Yin Peng, is also over there. Qingfeng Shenhou looked at the entrance of Fengyang Gorge. A young hawk-nosed young man joked. His mentality was quite relaxed. From the beginning, he knew that this magic potion would definitely not fall into his hands. So he didn't even think about competing. Wang Zhuoyan snorted coldly without saying a word. Jian Wushuang looked at the top ultimate masters in Fengyang Canyon from afar. He could not help but secretly sigh that these ultimate masters could travel for thousands of years in the ruins without being looted and killed by others. Like him, if he explodes with all his strength, his combat power will be enough to match the top ultimate master. Even when he encounters the ultimate master of near invincibility like the master of Chiba and Zitong, he can fight directly. The current Fengyang Canyon is obviously not the top. Chiba God, they didn't even come? Jian Wushuang raised an eyebrow. Suddenly, if you don't take this elixir, they'll take it first. A sharp laughter sounded suddenly in the sky. C 4146, 4146 The Ninth Kulpa King's Desire. 4146 The Ninth Kulpa King's Desire, the birth of a divine medicine? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. When this godly medicine appeared, it caused a huge commotion and attracted many experts. Among those experts who rushed over, some of them recognized this godly medicine and said that this supreme-grade godly medicine can be refined into a divine pill that can increase the chances of breaking through to the Supreme Being realm. The peak-level ultimate ruler said, "What did you just say?" The Ninth Kulpa King's eyes suddenly burst out with a bright light. Both Jian Wushuang and Divine Marquis Qingfeng were shocked. They looked at each other in shock. Supreme-grade divine medicine was rare. In particular, this kind of divine medicine that could increase the chances of an ultimate ruler breaking through to the Supreme Being realm was extremely rare in the universe. Jian Wushuang was still a ruler of the 4th level, so he was not in a hurry to use the divine medicine to break through to the supreme level. However, it was a different story for the rulers of the ultimate level. That was breaking through to the Supreme Being realm. This was something that every ultimate ruler dreamed of. Even if this divine medicine could only slightly increase the chances of one breaking through to a higher level, it would be enough to drive all of the ultimate rulers crazy. Just like the Ninth Kulpa King. The Ninth Kulpa King had always been recognized as the #1 genius in the Divine Life Palace, at least before Jian Wushuang's arrival. However, over the years, the Ninth Kulpa King's status in the Divine Life Palace had been getting lower and lower. It was because he had stayed at the level of an ultimate ruler for too long and the Divine Life Palace had given him enough resources and a price, but he had still not broken through to become a supreme. This had disappointed many higher-ups of the Divine Life Palace. All these years, the Ninth Kulpa King had been enduring silently. Even though he had comprehended a terrifying killer move like the Divine Kingdom of One Thought, he had never revealed it. This was because he knew that only by breaking through to the supreme level would he truly rise to a whole new level. Otherwise, everything else would be useless. It could be said that among the many ultimate rulers in the Divine Life Palace, the ninth Kulpa King's desire to break through to the supreme level was the strongest. After all, he already had the battle strength of a supreme and had control of the one-thought divine kingdom. Once he broke through to the supreme being realm, he would definitely have the battle strength of a top-tier supreme being, and his future potential would be boundless. However, the crucial point was that he had been unable to break through after so many years. Even he himself was somewhat uncertain if it was possible for him to break through and become a supreme martial artist. And now, there was a huge opportunity in front of him. It was the godly medicine that had just appeared. This was a divine herb that could be refined into a divine pill, a divine herb that could increase the chances of breaking through to the supreme being realm. Even if it only increased the chances of a breakthrough by 10%, it was definitely enough to make the ninth Kulpa King go crazy. Is what you said true? The ninth Kulpa King's eyes were burning as he stared at the 5 people in front of him. Of course it's true. Now that the news has spread, I reckon that many rulers have already rushed there. However, it should take some time for that godly medicine to appear. If you rush over now, you might be able to make it in time. The peak-level ultimate ruler said. Let's go. Let's hurry over. The ninth Kulpa King growled in a low voice, and his speed instantly burst out. Jian Wushuang and Divine Marquis Qingfeng looked at each other and followed without hesitation. The Tarot ruins were vast and boundless, and many rulers of the universe had been wandering in the ruins for tens of thousands of years. Many places in the ruins had been named. For example, the Fengyang Canyon was the place where the Fengyang divine fruit had appeared. The Fengyang divine fruit was a rare treasure. However, he did not expect that an even more precious supreme-grade divine medicine would appear in the Fengyang Canyon not long after the Fengyang divine fruit appeared. Fengyang Canyon was not far from where the 3 of them were. With their speed, they arrived at Fengyang Canyon in less than an hour. The air above the huge Fengyang Canyon was already filled with people. Countless rulers were confronting each other, their swords drawn and bows bent. The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Jian Wushuang and ninth Kulpa King were not in a hurry to show themselves. Instead, they hid in a void and watched the scene from afar. There really are many experts. Jian Wushuang looked at the countless rulers that had gathered in front of him. Almost all of them were ultimate rulers, and many of them were already at the top of the ultimate rulers. There were more than 10 rulers who were almost invincible, like Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves and the ruler Violet Eye. Moreover, they had already shown their faces. Many others were probably like them, hiding in the surrounding void, waiting for an opportunity. The godly medicine is still there. The ninth Kulpa King's eyes shone with unprecedented fierceness as he stared at the void in the middle of the canyon. There was a blood-colored divine medicine that was emitting a unique aura. The ninth Kulpa King did not recognize this divine medicine at all. However, there were so many experts present, many of whom had extremely high attainments in natural treasures or some divine medicine. They were all so greedy for this divine medicine. Clearly, it was true that this godly medicine could increase the chances of rulers breaking through to the supreme realm after being refined into a divine pill. It seems like we're not late. However, there are so many rulers present, including the ruler teams from the Great Void Divine Hall and Blood Sky Hall. It won't be easy to get the divine medicine under the eyes of so many people. The ninth Kulpa King narrowed his eyes. Although he was arrogant, he was not blindly conceited or stupid. The rulers' teams under the major powers of the universe had many extraordinary strengths. He naturally did not fear them one-on-one, but if they worked together, he would have a headache. One had to know that the rulers sent by the top powers of the universe could not be weak. Ninth Kulpa King, your old friend, the ruler Silver Rock, is also there. Divine Marquis Qingfeng looked at the hook-nosed youth standing at the entrance of the valley and joked. He was rather relaxed. From the start, he knew that it was impossible for this godly medicine to fall into his hands. Therefore, he did not think about fighting for it. The ninth Kulpa King snorted coldly and did not speak. Jian Wushuang looked at the peak ultimate rulers in Fengyang Canyon from afar and sighed. These ultimate rulers could wander in the ruins for tens of thousands of years without being plundered or killed, so they were not weak. For example, if he went all out, his fighting power could rival that of a top ultimate master. He could even fight with ultimate masters like Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves and Purple Eye Ruler who were almost invincible. However, such power was obviously not at the top in Fengyang Canyon. Divine Emperor Thousand Leaves and the rest didn't come? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Suddenly he was startled. If you guys don't want this godly medicine, then I'll take it. A sharp laugh suddenly sounded in the sky. Chapter 41-47. Two more arrived today. I have to say that the 4 Chiba gods are exquisite, and they did find the right time. They were the ones who rushed to the potion first, and they were closer to the potion. After the first wave of attacks from the strong, they burst out again. At this time, the surrounding masters, trying to block them again, have been very difficult. This elixir belongs to us. As soon as we got this magic pill, we immediately left this Taro ruins. The 4 Chiba gods approached the magic medicine as fast as possible, and the magic medicine was close at hand, which made them all have a pleasant smile on their faces. They didn't see. Around Fengyang Gorge, the main masters who had seen them extremely anxious to seize the magic medicine suddenly became indifferent, and even looked at the 4 people of Chiba God King with some pity. Huh! Suddenly, a burst of noise came from the void. The 4 gods of Chiba are like hitting an invisible wall. The hurricane figure is stiff. Okay. The eyes of the 4 gods of Chiba shrank in an instant, and they stared forward. I saw a young man wearing a white robe with a big badger embroidered with the word "too empty" on the back of the big badger. I do know when he was standing in front of their diffuseness, holding them all 4. The young man in white robe had a slender Excalibur on his waist. Just standing there, a sharp sword radiated out, and it was heartbreaking. This person's speed. The 4 Chiba gods were all terrified inside. They were obviously the first to leave, and they were also the closest to the magic potion. The person in front of them was obviously moving slower than them, but now they were standing in front of them. Obviously, the speed of coming is obviously faster than the 4 of them. This costume is a person from the Taishu Temple? God Chiba sank. I know him. He is the contemporary Sun Qing Shuzi in the Taishu Temple. Zaitong's eyes were dominated by the dignity. Qing Shuzi. Chiba God, Juyang dominated, and Qi Nan dominated. The Taishu Temple is also a big force in the universe. They will choose a sun every 1,000 chaos periods, and this godson is the leader of the Taishu Temple in this era. Wanting to be a sun is very simple. In the Taishu Temple, as long as any realm can sweep everything and become a contemporary invincible, it is the contemporary god of the Taishu Temple. In other words, the identity of the Kingsuzi was killed from thousands of masters. He is the most powerful man at the master level and has invincible existence. It should be known that although there are many ultimate masters in the vast universe, and some of them are top-notch, they can really be called invincible among the ultimate masters, but there are few pitiful. Like Chiba God and Zitong dominate the 2, they are just almost invincible, which means that the distance from the true invincibility is still slightly worse. However, Qingshu Zi is recognized by the universe and dominates the invincible existence. His strength is better than Chiba God and Dodo Dojo. Well, what about Kingsuzi? He only has one person, dare to be our way, kill him. Chiba Shenjin's eyes were red, and there was a surging killing in his eyes. To this day, it has long been impossible to take care of so much. The magic medicine is close at hand, and he cannot stop because of a young child. But he did not wait for the Emperor Chiba to take action, and the Qing Shuzi who was standing in front of them was utterly cold, and the magic sword hung around his waist instantly emerged from the sheath. Suddenly, a dazzling Zhenmong, like a soaring dragon, tore the heavens and the earth, and chopped directly towards the 4 people who were dominated by Chiba. This sword came out, a sharp sword surged up, breaking the void. In an instant, heaven and earth suddenly fell into an absolute icy cold, breeding coldness. Jian Wushuang, who is located in the void in the distance, suddenly stared at this scene. He felt that the Wu Cry Excalibur he was carrying was actually a muffled sound. Good swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He was good at kendo himself, and he had a high sense of the origin of kendo universe. Sword skill was also quite good. Naturally, he could see how good King Suzi was. And at the moment Qing Qingzi was performing his swordplay, he could still feel that the Wu Crying Excalibur that he was carrying had a faint sense of excitement, and he wished he would now scabbard out of the Excalibur with the Excalibur the last battle. This King Suzi has a very high accomplishment in kendo, and he also has a very high awareness of the laws of the universe. There was a flash of excitement in the sword's eyes. Huh! In the Fengyang Gorge, I saw the sword of Taishu Shensi cut out, and it turned directly into an incandescent startled dragon, snarling and severely chopping on the 4 men of Chiba God. Although the 4 men of Chiba had formed a legal array before, but after the first wave of offensives carried by many masters according to the legal array, they have collapsed and there is no possibility of reformation now. The same cannot be done for the second time. However, the opponent was just King Suzi, and the 4 Chiba gods did not want to resist passively, but instead tried to repel King Suzi. Therefore, the 4 of them also carried out a violent attack for the first time, facing the Qing Zuzi's sword like bombarded. Huh! A loud explosion exploded, and the entire void shuddered wildly. Endless divine power swept through, forming a storm that filled the world. And in the middle of this divine storm. How is that possible? The 4 faces of Chiba Shinjuku all changed dramatically. Obviously, the 4 were working together to deal with one person, but at the moment Qing Qingzi cut it with a sword, the 4 of them had an irresistible feeling after the sword. All 4 were in the same shape cleavage. Not only that, the sword light contains powerful power, but also impacts on their deities. Under this power, Chiba God and Zitong are better dominated. In addition to spitting out blood, it's no big deal, and the loss of divine power is not too much. Compared with the master of Qi Nan, the master of Jiuyang will be miserable. The strength of the 2 will be much weaker. Under the sword of Qing Shuzi, one was directly cut off one arm, and the other body was spotted on the spot. Defeated. However, after all, they are both special lives. Compared with the ordinary ultimate master, the divine power is much thicker, and they can still withstand such injuries. However, one sword defeated the 4 of them and joined forces, which can also reflect the invincible fighting power of Qing Shuzi. Many weak masters in the surrounding area couldn't help taking a sigh of breath when they saw this scene. Chapter 41-48. The first is more. So strong. It's worthy of being a young child. This is too strong. The surrounding masters were all amazed. One sword defeats the 4 top ultimate masters, of which there are nearly invincible existence in 2 ultimate masters. The strength of this young man is really terrible. Sword unparalleled, you are also a strong swordsman. In your opinion, what about King Suzi? In the distance, Qing Feng Shenho looked at the sword, and then asked with a smile. Strong. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and calmly replied. What if you want to compare with this King Suzi? Qing Feng Shenho asked again. This. Jian Wushuang frowned but followed the same way. If he only understands kendo, he should not be much better than me, and I should have a slightly higher understanding of the laws of the universe than he, but after all, he is the ultimate master. He is much stronger than me in terms of divine power. If he really kills him, he will naturally be stronger than me. Jian Wushuang is telling the truth. In terms of strength, Qing Shuzi is already in the invincible level in the ultimate domination. Although he reached the 4th level because of a breakthrough, coupled with a much higher intensity of divine power than ordinary practitioners, with the insight of the laws of the universe, confidence is not afraid of the ultimate dominator. Even when encountering the powerful class of Chiba God Prince and Zitong, Jian Wushuang is not afraid of it, and even if he is confident, he can fight in a battle. However, King Suzi has a lot of strength than Chiba God and Zitong. If he fights with Qing Shuzi, he will only have the capital of World War I if he can cast the dragon's mystery, burn his divine power, or his talents. However, Qing Shuzi has only just cast a sword. Jian Wushuang has a whole card, and Qing Shuzi definitely has it, so Jian Wushuang said that Qing Shuzi should be stronger. Can be strong and strong, but if you really fight with Qing Shuzi, Jian Wushuang will never have the slightest fear. And Jian Wushuang is sure that King Suzi can't help him. After all, Jian Wushuang's huge deity and vast divine power are all there. In the vast universe, except for the supremely powerful anti-celestial masters such as King Nine Calamity, which may pose a threat to him, Master of the Sword, Jian Wushuang need not care at all. Although Qing Shuzi is strong, it is still a lot better than the 9 Kings of Calamity, which is itself a perfect life, and also has mastered a kingdom with a supreme combat power. Of course, Jian Wushuang and Qing Feng Shenhou are just talking now. This King Suzi is very powerful, but you have practiced Jian Wushuang for more than 300,000 years, and now you are only dominated by the 4th grade. However, the perception of Kendo and the laws of the universe is not weaker than him. Once you grow up, get up and reach the ultimate dominance level, it should be easy to overcome this King Suzi. Qing Feng Godho laughed. Jian Wushuang also smiled uncritically. Don't say anything, we're ready to take a shot. King Nine Kings looked ahead and said suddenly. Jian Wushuang and Qing Feng looked at each other quickly. I saw that in Fengyang Canyon, the situation had changed. After the 4 Chiba gods were chopped back by Qing Shuzi, they were immediately attacked by a large number of masters around them. This time they did not have a defensive circle, and could only forcibly resist these attacks by their own means. As a result, only a wave of attacks. And they only suffered a part of the ultimate of the attack, but the horrible power applied to them, and the 4 people suffered an unprecedented hit. Fortunately, the 4 of them are all special lives, and their divine power is stronger than that of ordinary practitioners. Otherwise, the 4 of them may be killed on the spot. But now, the divine power of the 4 people has also lost most of them. Retreat, rewind. Chiba God and Zitong dominated the 4 with a hint of panic. They knew that after Qing Shuzi had stopped the 4 of them, they had lost the opportunity to compete for the magic potion, let alone be hit hard again. They must leave immediately, otherwise the 4 of them are likely to lose their lives here. However, even though the 4 of them have retreated, they have obviously given up their plans to compete for the magic potion, but among the surrounding masters, many of them still pay attention to the 4 of them. Chiba God, you 4 of you have today too. 40 years ago, our team almost planted in the hands of the 4 of them, and now it is a rare opportunity to kill them. Chiba God, you 4 cannot walk out of this valley today. A large number of masters continued to slay the pass towards the 4 gods of Chiba. The number of these masters is not large. There are only more than 20 people. Among them, some of them have previously been plundered by the 4 kings of Chiba, and they have escaped their lives by chance, such as the 8-cloud demon of Demon God Kingdom. The Lord is among them. There are others who know that they have no strength to compete for the magic potion, so they simply stared at the 4 gods of Chiba. After all, the 4 Chiba gods have been severely damaged, and their power has been consumed by more than half, and their combat power is not as good as before. This is definitely a good opportunity to beat the water dog. The masters who were previously exposed by the 4 will naturally not miss this opportunity, and they have shot in order to kill the 4 here. Asshole! The gods of Chiba and Dodo are both somber and ugly. The masters of Juyang and Qinan were also pale and frightened. If it was during the heyday, they would naturally not care about these masters who came from the siege, but now they are all hit hard, and their combat power cannot be exerted much. In this situation, the 4 of them are likely to fall. And just at this critical moment, Chiba God was screaming hysterically, "Hero of the 9th Calamity, Sword Warrior, and Qing Feng. I know you are nearby, do you just keep your eyes open? Watching me wait for the 4 to die, and seeing no death?" The roar of King Jiojia resounded through the entire Fengyang Canyon. King of the 9 Calamities? What? King Jiojia is nearby? The shadow of a person's famous tree. The ultimate masters who besieged the god of Chiba were shocked and looked around. However, they looked for a long time and did not see the king of 9 calamities. Figure, sneer suddenly appeared on his face again. Chiba god, give up the needless struggle. This Fengyang Gorge today is the place where you are buried. Ha, dominated by Zitong, I heard that your eyes have trained a powerful pupil skill? Well, today I will dig out your eyes. God of Chiba, no one can save you today. This group of ultimate masters, with a sneer, approached step by step towards Chiba god. Mando sword, Mando sword. Chapter 41-49. The second is more. I have to say that Chiba Shrine, as the team sent by the Shrine of Life, has a status that is only the existence of King Jujia. When the 3 dominated by Zitong could not bear the chaos, Chiba Shinjun sank and screamed again, King of the 9th calamity, you and I are both members of the Shrine of Life, and you are the leader of this time. If I die here, don't you think they will blame you for the blood of the Supreme? After he finished speaking, there was a sudden twist in the void, and the Emperor Chiba's face suddenly became happy, and he quickly looked towards the void. I saw the head of Jiujia Wang, Jian Wushuang and Qing Feng were waiting, and the 3 of them were in the shape of a character and stepped out from the void. King of the 9th calamity, you are indeed there. When the Chiba prince saw this, he immediately drew his head, the 3 pupils dominated by Zitong and Jiuyang, and his eyes also sent out a strong joy. However, without waiting for the 4 of them to speak again, the words of King Jujia made them half-hearted, like falling into an ice cellar. You rubbish, I really don't look down on it. If you don't care about the high level of the Temple of Life, this seat is too lazy to care about your life. The king of Jujia looks a little ugly. In fact, he and Jian Wushuang did not want to show up so early because he knows that once he shows up, he will be the target of criticism. After all, his strength is there. Hiding in the dark first, waiting for the best chance, that's the best choice, but now, just because of the 4 men of Chiba, they have to show up. No way, no matter how they look at the 4 Chiba gods, they are not pleasing to the eyes, and no matter how angry they are, the 4 Chiba gods, after all, are from the Palace of Life, just like them. They watched the death of these 4 people. Happy, but he had to consider that afterwards he would be blamed by the high level of the Temple of Life. No way, the 3 of them can only show up in advance. After looking at the 4 gods of Chiba, the king of 9 robbers, his eyes fell on the blood-red goddess blooming on the cliff in the Nanyang Gorge, and he said, the 4 of them, as long as they don't die, as for everything else, they don't care. But that magic pot, I want it. The king of 9 calamities is indeed the king of 9 calamities. I haven't seen it for 3,000 years, and I still behave so aggressively. As soon as I show up, I want to speak of the supreme divine flower. Oh, you don't agree? The king of Josai turned his gaze and looked at Yin Peng. His gaze was cold. Well, king of 9 calamities, the enmity of 3 million years ago, I will liquidate with you sooner or later, but what I want to tell you now is that this place must not be presumptuous. Yin Peng's face was cloudy and uncertain. There is so much nonsense. Jiujia Wang heard the words, dismissed a sneer. Immediately he lowered his head and looked at the other masters of the Fengyang Gorge and said coldly, I want this magic potion, who are you to stop me? Or, who dare to stop me? With this remark, the audience was silent. Everyone who was seen by the king of Jiulong dodged his eyes and bowed his head without saying a word. The king of 9 robbers was the only one who was overwhelmed by the audience. This is strength. Even if it was Jian Wushuang, seeing the scene, he could not help but sigh. King Jiujia's fame in the universe is too great. They are also the ultimate masters. Whether it is the general ultimate master, the top ultimate master, or even some invincible existence among the ultimate masters, there will be a trace of fear in the face of Jiujiawang. This kind of strength is far incomparable from the current Jian Wushuang. Slap. 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 At this moment, lazy claps came from the crowd in Fengyang Canyon. The king of 9 calamities, long heard of his name. A barefooted young man wearing a big red sun robe with hair all braided into small pigtails, with an evil smile on his face, stepped out of the void step by step. Behind him, a squad of armor, all dominated by the ultimate dominator, was right behind him, exuding a sense of killing. People of the great kingdom of God. That's the armor of the great sun god kingdom, and each one is the ultimate dominating power. The young man in the red sun robe, who wants to come, is the master who is sent by the big sun fuckingdom this time. I heard that this person has always been untamed, bloodthirsty and militant, and looked down on others. He hated countless people in Dashan, but he was extremely powerful, but he was the king of Jinan who was captivated by Dashan. He came to this Taro ruins. With this person, King Jiojia wants to get the magic medicine smoothly. I'm afraid it's a bit difficult. Well, no matter who gets this strain of magic medicine, depending on the current situation, we have no hope. The ultimate masters who had originally bowed their heads and said nothing, saw their pupils shrink and then sighed. These ultimate dominators are placed outside, and they are all the best among the ultimate dominators, but they are not enough to see in the glorious relics of this day. You want to stop me? King Josei looked at him. His cold face was extremely cold. A miracle drug that raises the chance of breaking the supremacy. It is not a great opportunity in this ruin, nor is it in my great Nishan country. My king is not interested in it. The young Japanese red robe shook first. Shaking his head, the next moment, the corner of his mouth yanked a bloodthirsty radian, and the front turned. However, this king has heard of your name, King Jiojia, and it is said that you are the rare perfect life in the universe. Everyone says that you are the first person in the era of the vast universe. My king is quite interested in this. But the void was twisted again, and 5 of them wore blood-colored coats, hoods, and long sickles, and walked out of the void. These 5 people couldn't see their looks clearly, and their wide hoods blocked their faces by more than half. There was a strong breath of death in them, and the sharp and curved sickle was held in their hands, as if it were not a living person, but 9 angels coming from the area. People in the Blood Temple. Here are the 5 blood angels of the Blood Temple. The crowd once again exclaimed, for these peak powers who are famous at the dominating level, they naturally understand. We need this temple. Who blocks, who dies? The 5 bloods stunned their mouths at the same time, and their voices were hoarse. The 5 blood gods in the Blood Temple made one out, and the crowd fell silent again. Who blocks, who dies? No one doubts what they say. In this vast universe, the Blood Temple is notorious. The masters and even the supremes who died in their hands are innumerable. Even some top supremes are extremely jealous of this Blood Temple. And these 5 blood envoys, although they are only the ultimate dominating strength, if they are singled out, they may not be comparable to the invincible dominators such as King of the 9 Kings, but together they are afraid that the King of 9 Kings will have to pay attention to the 3 points. Chapter 4150. The third is here. If you want this magic potion, first ask the sword in my hand. The former Taishu Shensi Qingshu, a 4-leaf Chifeng Shenjun, walked step by step without expression. Great Sun God Kingdom, Blood Temple, Taishu Temple. The powerful men of the 3 top powers, at the same time, stare at the King of 9 Calamities. In the canyon, although there are still a large number of ultimate dominators, among them there are some strong dominating squads, but these dominated people retreat to the surrounding area very tacitly when they see this scene. They were very clear that the Great Sun God Kingdom, the Blood Temple, and the Taishu Temple all came forward, and the 9 kings of the most powerful were present. Their ordinary ultimate masters, it was already difficult to have the opportunity to the magic medicine already. In this battle, the protagonists are the 4 major forces that are currently facing each other. To be precise, in fact, only 2 parties are competing. The Life Shrine headed by King Jiojia is one side. The 3 parties, the Great Sun God Kingdom, the Blood Temple, and the Taishu Temple, all joined forces. No way, they had to join forces in front of the King of 9 Calamities. King Jujia's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was a dignity on his face. Although he is conceited, he is not stupid. These three forces add up to more than 10 top-level ultimate dominators alone. Among them, Jinan King, Qing Shuzi, and 5 blood gods join forces, all of which are invincible combat power. Together, even he has to pay attention. In the distance, there is that Yin Peng who dominates Hu Yen. I'm afraid that if there is a chance, he will give him a thunderstrike. King of 9 calamities, what shall we do now? Qing Feng asked in a low voice. King Jujia took a deep breath and replied, no matter what, this magic potion is bound to be obtained. After saying that, he flipped his right hand, and in his hand a divine grass with 9 leaves appeared. He took a deep look at Jian Wushuang and said in a deep voice, Jiang Wushuang, I know, although you are only the 4th grade master, but your divine power is 8,000 times that of an ordinary practitioner, plus the willpower given by the laws of the universe. Your divine power should also be comparable to the top ultimate master, plus your perception and understanding of the laws of the universe talented supernatural powers. Your strength will never be weaker than Chiba God and Zitong dominate them. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded, and he acknowledged that he did have the fighting power now. You still have a body that is 68,000 miles high, and the divine power is almost endless. As long as the Supreme is not out, basically no one will kill you. Zhu Jiawang said again. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded again. This is a 9-leaf swordgrass, which contains the very high power of Kendo. It was obtained from a mystery 10 times before the Chaos Era. If it is of value, it is worse than the magic medicine in front of it. Not much, as long as you help me stop the 2 virtual sun for a moment. This 9-leaf swordgrass will belong to you. How about it? King Jiujia Jingjing said. Jian Wushuang heard that his body was shocked. Ji Jianchao, he had heard of it. 9-leaf swordgrass was born from the birth of the heavens and earth, absorbing the growth of sword energy in the world. It is an unparalleled treasure for Kendo monks. If Jian Wushuang owns this 9-leaf swordgrass, he is confident that his own understanding of the origin of Kendo universe will inevitably reach a whole new level. By then, his strength will enter a new world. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. King Jiujia smiled indifferently and pushed the Ji Jianchao directly to Jian Wushuang. Qing Feng, you help me to block the 5 blood ambassadors for a moment. I will give you 1,000,000 cosmic source stones. If this time I can pass smoothly and return to the temple, I will give you 1 more. The rule of top grade is precious. How about it? King Jiujia looked at Qing Feng again and said, 5 blood emperors? Qing Feng frowned, but then laughed. These 5 blood emperors make the individual strength not very strong. The key is that the 5 men join forces, and the combat power is not under Qing Shuzi. But I don't have any other ability, but I have some ability to entangle people. If only for a moment I can try my best. Qing Feng Prince, although the fame in the universe is not as great as Chiba and Zitong dominate them, but it does not mean that he is weak. As one of the old masters of the old shrine of life, he is stronger than Chiba and others, only strong and not weak, but rarely shot. And his ability to entangle the enemy is also a must. Very. When the king of Juzai saw this, he was so arrogant. He didn't ask Jian Wushuang and Qing Feng to be able to beat Qing Shuzi and Xu Emingshi. He only needed to hold on for a moment, and he was confident that he would be able to defeat the kingdom of the great god of the sun, and then he would kill Tai Su Shensi and Bloody Make. Ultimately dominate the level. He is invincible. Photo. At the next moment, King Jujia's big hand reached out and turned directly into a towering giant hand, covering the sky and covering the sun, grabbing towards the supreme potion on the edge of the cliff. Good job. The South King of the Red Robe Youth Town of the Great Kingdom of God suddenly opened his mouth with an addictive laughter, took the lead in the sky, and blasted to the towering giant. Ha! Let me see if the King of 9 calamities with the supreme combat power is really so good. Behind him, 2 golds appeared, like a fierce sun, shooting bloodthirsty red mansions. Court death. The killer flashed in the eyes of King Jujia, and he pressed down hard in his hand. At that moment, the towering giant who had grasped the supreme divine drug turned, and turned to take a picture of Zheneng King. Arrogance. On the other side, Qing Shuzi smiled indifferently, immediately holding the sword handle in his right hand and pulling out the sheath. An incandescent swordman roared out like a terrifying dragon, slashing at the king of Jiujia. After splitting the sword, Qing Shuzi didn't stop, striding hard, and fiercely shot at King Jiujia. No one can take what I want from the Blood Temple. 5 blood mourners said at the same time, their voices were hoarse and strange. The next moment, the 5 bloods stunned their bodies, and instantly disappeared into place. At this moment, the invincible masters of the 3 major forces at the same time killed the king of 9 robberies. Ha! The 9 Palm King's palm photographed directly the Zheneng King, who soared into the sky and fell to the ground. And just as Qing Zuzi's sword was about to be slashed to the king of 9 robbers. Ha! An equally dazzling sword light suddenly came across the sky, directly defeating Qing Zuzi's astounding sword. Immediately afterwards, a figure in black hunting with a cold eyebrow stepped out and stood in front of Qing Shuzi. Your opponent is me. The black figure spoke indifferently. The 4th level master dominates? Qing Zuzi's figure fled forward, and then his eyes narrowed and he asked, Who are you? The figure in black held the Excalibur and heard the words calmly returned, Sword is unparalleled. Jian Wushuang? Qing Shuzi shook his head and said, I have never heard of it. Next moment, there was a violent flash in his eyes, and he drew his sword forward again. No matter who you are, whoever blocks me, anyone will die. Chapter 4151. The first is more. Jian Guang burst out. This sword is much more powerful than that of the Jinghong Yi sword. The sword light with a width of 10 feet seems to split the world and slash it in front of Jian Wushuang. Then fight it. Jian Wushuang saw this, but was not afraid of anti-smiling, his eyes filled with surging war. Kaiyun. Jian Wushuang opened his mouth and spit out 2 words. Suddenly, a terrifying Jianhong was like Tianhe upside down. It was severely cut out, and it instantly stunning the world. Jinguang and Jianhong collided suddenly, as if the sun and the moon collided, making a loud noise. On the other side, Qingfeng Shenhou took out a Fangtian painting halberd, and the whole body shone with blue light, as if the ancient heavenly war had come to the world, and blocked the 5 blood gods. Bloodmaster, if you want to get the supreme divine pill, go through my level first. Qingfeng looked a little smile, then a towering warfare broke out. At this moment, the battle broke out. Around Fengyang Canyon, most of the masters have retreated far away, and only a few of the top ultimate masters with strong strengths have some cravings for that magic medicine, and they want to look for opportunities. And within the canyon, an unprecedented war is erupting. I saw all kinds of Jinguang, Peerless, and Mystery coming out one after another. The blasting Fengyang Gorge was like an earthquake. Countless mountain peaks were directly flattened, and countless lands were blown into huge pits. In the void, Jian Wushuang and Taishu Shensi Kingsuzi blasted a sword against his face, and his face suddenly couldn't stop flushing. In this blow, I can feel that there should be no big difference between him and my perception of Kendo. My perception of the laws of the universe is stronger than him, but his divine power is far stronger than mine. Unless I play my whole cards and stop suppressing the strength of my divine power, I will have the slightest chance to really beat him with his wrist, otherwise, I will never be his opponent. Jian Wushuang knew in the heart that his current strength should be in the ultimate masters are also considered strong, but compared to these invincible masters, they are still far behind. I'm still too weak. Jian Wushuang sighed, but he was not disappointed, because at the beginning of his plan, he didn't want to defeat the Qing Shuzi, but dragged him on. Jian Wushuang lamented his weakness, but he didn't know how much his sword had caused Qing Zuzi's heart. This person's 4th level master actually took my shot? Qing Shuzi was shocked. Despite this sword, he only used 30% of his power, but it was absolutely impossible for him to come. Master of the 4th series, what can be taken over? You know who he is? the contemporary invincibility of Taishu Temple, the absolute overlord in the ultimate domination. Even if a top ultimate master comes, even if he is not dead under one sword, at least he must be hit hard. But the person in front of him, but the master of the fourth series, is a small character who has no fame in the universe. On weekdays, this kind of person is like an ant-like character. If anyone told him that a fourth-ranking master could take him a sword, he would only treat it as a joke, but now, he saw with his own eyes such a fourth-rank master, not only took him a sword, and unscathed. How can that be? Jian Wushuang, right? Good, I remember your name, but that's all for now. Qing Shuzi looked cold, holding the handle of his sword in his right hand, and stepped forward. Bang! Qing Shuzi turned into a streamer in an instant, like the Shindian that tore the night, roaring and chopping Chaos Ho sword. Starfall. Heaven and earth are suddenly darkened. Jian Wushuang looked up at this invincible sword, his face was full of dignity, he did not dare to magnify it, and the power of 8,000 times erupted instantly. This is more than that, Jian Wushuang once again urged the willpower given by the laws of the universe, and his divine power sword again. The earth guards the sword formation. Buzzing. A large number of swordsmania swept wildly, and in the blink of an eye formed a huge array of guardian swords covering the whole body of the sword, and the stream of tearing night has arrived, just like a dragon, fiercely bit on the sword array of the sword unparalleled. Ha! The next moment, the sword unparalleled flew out, smashed to the ground severely, and directly hit a bottomless pit. Countless fumes filled the air. Ended. In the position where Jian Wushuang stood before, Qing Shuzi stood up in the air, his face expressionless. He could feel that his sword directly broke the sword array of Jian Wushuang, and split it on the body of Jian Wushuang. A fourth-level master, who bears the sword in front of him, must be dead. Shaking his head, Qing Shuzi raised his head and looked at the other side of the sky. There. The battlefield between King Jiujia and Jinan King. Ha! After all the loud noise came, the aftermath of the battle between King Jiuzai and Jinan King directly set off a storm of chaos. Where the storm passed, countless voids trembled, enough to destroy the ordinary ultimate master. In the middle of the storm, King Jiolong and Jinan King were like heaven and earth, and each time they fought, they fell apart. Jinan King, you dare to stop me because of this strength? It's ridiculous. Jiao Jiawang took the shot of Jinan King with his palm, stared, and sneered sneer. His 9 skills were continuously used by him, like a storm, and he was photographed severely to the king of Jinan. Now, he has not suppressed his own realm, and is more than 1,000 times stronger than the Jiolong Wang that Jian Wushuang met at the trial ground. King Jinan said nothing, and his face was somber that he could drip water. He didn't expect that the king of Jiuzai was so terrified. Facing the king of 9 calamities, he even had a feeling of facing the supreme. The king of Jinan will die. Qing Shuzi looked at this scene and shook his head. He could see that the king of the south of the town had already dealt out the cards, but he was still crushed by the king of Jiujia. In terms of strength, King Jiujia is definitely more powerful than King Jinan. The king of 9 calamities has the supreme combat power in the universe. Now it seems that it is true. Qing Zuzi's eyes narrowed, but in his heart he quickly made a decision. He must gather him, 5 envoys and King Jinan. It is possible for people to compete, even to suppress the king of Jiujia. Otherwise, once king of Jiujian resolves the king of Jinan, the next one to be resolved is probably him. As soon as he stepped into a sword mangling, he was ready to fire towards King Jiujia. However, just then, I said, "Your opponent is me." A cold voice sounded behind his ears. The next moment, a sharp pole reached the sky, like a sharp moonlight, chopped at him severely and cut off his way. Chapter 4152. Second more. Okay. Qing Zuzi's steps stopped abruptly, and he looked down suddenly, his face suddenly sinking. There, in a huge pit, the fumes of the sky gradually dispersed. Jian Wushuang stood proudly, with black hair flying all over his head, holding the Wu weapon sword in his right hand, his sword pointed at the ground obliquely, his expression calmed down. There was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. Qing Shuzi, with me here, you can't enter halfway. Jian Wushuang made a light stroke with his right hand, and the ground was instantly cut through a bottomless trench, blocking him and Qing Shuzi. Stroke with a sword to teach you not to walk halfway. You're looking for death. Qing Shuzi suddenly became furious, his intentions burst out in his eyes, and he fought fiercely towards the sword Wushuang. Sword art, scary dragon. Bang. At this moment, Qing Shuzi disappeared with the magic sword in his hand. The next moment, a thundering thunder dragon poked his head out of the void. It opened its huge mouth, roared, and the sky shook. Sword unparalleled. This sword is one of the strongest exterminations I have created in my long years of practice, enough to kill any master below the supreme realm. You should be proud when you die in this sword. Shuzi doesn't have any emotional sound. The sword was unparalleled, and suddenly his eyes rose sharply, taking a deep breath. Talented, supernatural. Buzzing. The surrounding void was slightly shaken. Followed by a large amount of black air, it suddenly swept up, covering the void in the blink of an eye. The heavens and the earth were completely dim, there was no light at all, and the whole heaven and earth fell into absolute darkness. Mystery, dragon extinction. Jian Wu's eyes flashed sharply, and the vast and imposing divine power in his body, at this moment, began to burn frantically at a horrible speed. The divine power burned wildly, and the power that he could burst out instantly reached a whole new level. The gifted supernatural primitive universe and the dragon extinction technique are one of the two major hole cards of Jian Wushuang. At this moment, they are being cast at the same time. Under these two hole cards, Jian Wushuang's strength also suddenly skyrocketed. He stared at the thunder dragon that had overwhelmed the heavens and earth. His expression suddenly calmed down and said, Qing Shuzi, I also have a sword, you and look. Grunt. At this moment, the turbulent wind, the flowing clouds, the rising dust, and the countless flying dust in the Fengyang Canyon trembled. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to be attracted, and all rushed towards the sword without hands. The clouds in the sky, the howling wind, and the floating dust all turned into the purest source of energy in the world, like the return of the sea and the 10,000 swords, all converging towards the sword without hands. Vast and cover the sun. A large number of masters around, and even a few people who were fighting fiercely at this moment couldn't help but stop the movements in their hands, looked up to this scene, and there was a fascination in the eyes. In the end, this pure source of energy all converged in the swordless hands, and turned into a silver sword rainbow of 100 feet. This sword was realized by Jian Wushuang in the life of Kendo, and gathered all the power of Jian Wushuang. This sword once appeared in the proving ground. One sword broke Jijiawang and Jiudao, and shocked the entire palace of life. This sword is nameless, but it is the strongest sword of Sword Wushuang today. For more than 4,000 years, after he realized the sword in the trial hall of the Palace of Life, Jian Wushuang did not stop studying for a moment. After realizing 3,000 years in Hanoi, 1,000 years in the cosmic boat, and more than 4,000 years, Jian Wushuang's perception of this sword finally reached its limit. Although this sword is still not perfect, its edge is revealed. Cut! The sword holds Baizhang sword rainbow without hands and splits, with black hair flying like a peerless sword god. Cut! Suddenly, this huge sword rainbow of the size of 100 feet suddenly cut off towards the thunder dragon in the primitive universe. The ground was ripped open to 3,000 feet. In the realm of the primitive universe formation, you can suppress each other and strengthen yourself. After this sword rainbow entered the realm of the primitive universe, mighty power surged again. Destroy the heavens and the earth as disasters. Rumble! This Baizhang Jianhong finally collided with the thunder dragon of Qing Shuzi. At this moment, there was a twist in the void, and a huge shock wave spread rapidly at the point where the two collided, squeezing the ground down 10 miles. Under this sword, time seems to be still, and space seems to be broken. The thunder dragon in the world of shouting, just persisted for less than a short time, then suddenly shattered. Wearing a white robe and a big robe behind, the Qingshu child embroidered with the huge word, "too empty," suddenly retreated. Qing Shuzi chopped 3 swords before chopping this sword rainbow. How is it possible? He looked down and saw a tiny bloodline in his right hand, furious to the extreme. This sword actually broke his thunder dragon directly and cut him. Although it is only a subtle bloodline, he has plunged him into anger. I don't know how many years, since he reached the ultimate level, no one has hurt him for half a point. But at this moment he was actually wounded with a sword by a 4th-level master. For him, for his pride as the son of God, it was a shame. Jian Wushuang, I will kill you today. The next moment, Qing Shuzi raised his head and looked at Xiang Jianwushuang. The cold-hearted intention in his eyes was enough to freeze Jiuyo. This child will not be removed today, and it will become a serious problem in the future. And sword unparalleled, although this sword forced the Qing Shuzi back, but his body also suffered a little tremor, and although this sword has been formed, but after all, it is not really perfect, he is not perfect control. A sword cast down, he himself was affected by some swordsmanship. I hope you can do it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and looked at the Jiujie Wang at the side and laughed. As long as he insists on a moment of effort, but it has been a while, and during this time, the South King of the town has been completely destroyed by the King of 9 calamities, even his 7 gods' way, there are only 2 or 3 miserable. Jian Wushuang, support 10 more breaths, as long as 10 breaths time, I can get the supreme magic medicine. King Jiujia glanced at Jian Wushuang, his voice sank. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded. Huh. At this time, King Suzi had already killed. 10 breaths? Jian Wushuang, you're too arrogant. Qing Shuzi looked coldly, holding the sword to the sword Wushuang fiercely. At this moment he no longer regards Jian Wushuang as a 4th-level dominated ant on the spot, but as an invincible dominated by his peers. His strength is no longer reserved. Chapter 4153. The first is more. Qing Zuzi's stabbed Excalibur was like a poisonous snake suddenly bursting out, incredibly fast. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank, holding up the Wu Weeping sword in his hand, blocking the sword across. The 2 swords collided together, and suddenly a violent storm raged around. The void under the sword's feet exploded in vain. Roll! The sword screamed without a hit, and the Excalibur in his hand opened the screen like a peacock, passing a beautiful arc in the void. Voila! With the willful execution of the sword, under the blessing of the primitive universe and the mystery of dragon extermination, the power of this sword also soared to the extreme. Qing Shuzi is also the strongest fighting force broke out. However, on the understanding of Kendo, Jian Wushuang is not inferior to Qing Shuzi. On the understanding of the laws of the universe, Jian Wushuang is even higher than Qing Shuzi. The only thing that King Suzi is stronger than Jian Wushuang is that he is the invincible being in the ultimate master, and exerts the most powerful divine power after the secret operation. But this divine power was wiped out immediately after the sword unparalleled casts the dragon extermination technique and the primitive universe. The current sword Wushuang is not inferior to this King Suzi in terms of divine power. Natural sword Wushuang can completely fight with King Suzi. Ha! Shocking roar and collisions sounded in the void of Fengyang Canyon one after another. Many of the ultimate masters who watched the battle around saw the scene in front of them, and their heads were a little cyanotic. A 4th rank dominated, is it comparable to Qing Zuzi's fight? Who is this 4th-ranked dominator? Where did this guy come from, and how could it be so scary? Everyone was incredible about the scene at hand. A 4th-level master, the ultimate master in the presence, it is almost no different from the ants. On weekdays, they can easily slaughter a large number of 4th-level masters with a wave of their hands, but today, such a 4th-level master dominates the King Suzi, who has invincible combat power among the ultimate masters. They can see that King Suzi has come up with all the strength, but despite this, they still have no other way to take the opponent, and they can't even gain the slightest advantage in the battle with the opponent. This kind of combat power has completely exceeded their imagination. Impossible! This is impossible! Qing Shuzi was also furious. It is comparable to a fourth-ranked dominating fan, which is definitely his greatest shame in his life. However, he did not know that Qing Shuzi had already done his best in this fight, but Jian Wushuang actually did not use his whole cards. For example, his talented magical power and life deterrence had never been used. However, his task was only responsible for entanglement of this young man. There was no need to desperately. Moreover, the time for 10 breaths is almost the same. Suddenly, "Come on!" A loud scream rang through the void. "Huh!" Jian Wushuang immediately looked intently and saw that King Jiujia had already put the supreme divine medicine in his bag, and he had rescued the nearly collapsed Qingfeng priest from the 5 blood sacrifice, and swept towards Jian Wushuang extremely fast. Jian Wushuang breathed a sigh of relief. Now that the king of Jiuzhai has now got the supreme potion, it is naturally unnecessary for him to fight with Qing Shuzi again. Next moment, the king of 9 robbers rushed forward, raised the sword unparalleled, and stormed away in the distance. At his speed, even with Qingfeng Ho and Jian Wushuang at the same time, none of the ultimate masters present were chasing him. The 3 of them could completely retreat. But also at this moment, King of Calamity, suffer. A strange figure, without any sign, appeared in the surrounding void, and this man was the master of Yinpeng. The Lord Yinpeng had resentment against the King of 9 Calamities. He had been waiting in the surrounding void before, just waiting for the perfect opportunity to perform a fatal blow to the King of 9 Calamities. But now, he had finally waited for this wonderful opportunity. I saw a handful of Jingu in his hand. A drop of purple and black venom dripped at the sharp edge of the Jingu, and the gas burning in the void burst into poisonous smoke. Go with! There was a fierce flash in Yinpeng's eyes, and he aimed at the queen of Jiujie Wang and threw it. Suddenly, this Jingu actually jumped in the void. A shuttle has reached the back of the king of the 9 robbers and slammed in. Clang. Jingu hit the armor on the surface of King Jiulong and made a sound of metal impact. However, the sharp edge of Jinj did penetrate the armor of King Jiulang's body instantly and entered the body of King Jiulong. I saw King Jiujia's body shake, but instead of turning back, the divine power broke out and swept forward at a faster speed. In the blink of an eye, the king of 9 kings, Sword Wushuang, and Qingfeng were waiting for 3,000 miles, and disappeared into Fengyang Canyon. Inside Fengyang Canyon, the red robe of Zhenan King of the Great Divine Kingdom was shattered, his beard radiated, and the wolf was trembling to the extreme. He originally followed his 7 armors, 5 died, and the remaining 2 were just hanging barely. Qing Shuzi's face was iron blue, and a face was somber that dripping water could come. The 3 major forces, the only one who has blood in the Temple of Heaven, looked quite at ease. Among the 5 ambassadors, one with a thin build, looked at Zhenan King and Qing Shuzi, and said coldly, a man bragging about how powerful he is every day, he took the initiative to challenge the king of Jiuzhai. There is no backhand, and the other is that even a 4th-level master can't be resolved. It is really a waste. You. Qing Shuzi and Zhenan King changed their colors. Why? Still want to fight? 5 smirks made a mockery-revealed contempt. The king of Zhenan took a deep breath. If he was in the heyday, he would not be afraid of facing the 5 blood sacrifice, but now he is seriously injured, and he can't get a shot right now. What about you? With 5 people working together, even a Qingfeng prince can't kill him, but where is he strong? Zhenan Wang, she laughed and said with a lip to his lips. What are you talking about? 5 blood mines made Wen Yan's eyes narrow at the same time, shooting cold and cold. All 3, now is not the time for quarrels. Do you plan to watch the supreme divine pill taken away? At this moment, a black-eyed hawk-nosed man Yinpeng came over. They have run away. Do you still have a way? Zhenan King, Qing Shuzi, Xue Mingshi, and looked at the hawk-nosed man at the same time. Een Peng dominated with a smile and said, "The 9 kings of the 9 kings hit me a go and Sandy go far. My go has not only the poison that is enough to kill the ultimate dominator of the peak, but also in that poison, it leaves a trace of my origin." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.